Delta, still crying the same tears. From Emmett to Nolan, how many more years? Copper blood in these waters, Most High see us here. Peace be still, but the truth gonna appear. Emmett Till, young boy whistling in the store. White lies turned to lynch and dragged him from the door. Beaten, shot river, swallowed him whole. Open casket, mama showed the world his soul. Nolan Wills, 18, boat ride on the 4th. Only black in the circle, now they say he drowned for. Horn Island whispers, friends came back without him. Mississippi history, still hunting, still doubting. Same state, same pain, different name. Black boy lost in the Delta rain. When will it change? Lord, when will it change? Ancestors screaming, we never left this stage. 1955, Chicago boy down south for the summer breeze. Money, Mississippi, wrong place for a black team to breathe. Brian stole maybe a whistle, maybe just a smile. Jim Crow code broken, now they coming in the night. Wild Roy and Malone snatched him from his uncle's floor. Tortured that baby, fanti round, body in the Tallahatchie roar. Mutilated face, mama said let the world see. Acquitted by all white jury, not guilty, set him free. Sparked the movement, Montgomery rose from the flames. But the Delta dirt still holding black boys' names. Emmett was 14, just a child in his prime, lynched for existing in a twisted mind. Emmett Till, Nolan Wills, Delta shadows ringing bells. Black life cheap in these haunted lands. Most High coming with justice in his hands. 2026 July 4th, independence gone wrong. Broke the Horn Island with the crew, singing freedom songs. 18 years young, big heart, only copper in the mix. Friends white as the judge that let killers walking. 55 disappeared that day, body found on the shore 2 nights later. They say drowning, no foul play, but the family know better. Questions swimming deeper than the Gulf water's cold. Why leave your phone? Why the silence from the foe? Mississippi again, history echoing loud. Been Crump calling for truth, independent, autopsy proud. Was it accident or the past rising from the mud? Black boy with white friends, trust issues in our blood.
Why the same soil claim my sons? Ancestor never left, we still the chosen one.
From Till's open casket to Nolan's unanswered call. In time signs, Leviathan rising, watch the fall. No hate, just black love, we hold each other tight. But stop crashing out on each other and demand what's right.
Peace be still,
Through the storm we prevail,
Father's child.
we shall not fail. Both in Mississippi, Delta's cruel embrace. One lynched open, one body lost without a trace. Emmett's killers brag after the verdict came. Nolan's story fogged in speculation and shame. 14 or 18, young kings taken too soon. Waters claim the bodies, but the spirit touched the moon. Same fear, same doubt, same racist undercurrent flow. But we wiser now, cameras, voices won't let go. Indigenous copper, mountain builder stand tall. We walk together, ancestors answer the call. No more silent nights, no more cover graves. Justice for Emmett, justice for Nolan. Raise the blade. Hell no, but our spirit never failed. We got black love revolution now. Most High know my heart, make it right somehow.
Peace be still,
Peace be still. From Till to West, story still real. Let the world see, let the truth be free.
let the world see, let the world see.
Let the truth be free.
Right, hello everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your daily vitamins. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, let's get ready to get into it. Let's see who we have in here. All right, Carmen, Pearly. All right, Nubia Ra is here. Ada Bauman is here, 57 Beige Fox, Cream of Sherry. Okay, let's get into it. Greta Lee, Truth Brown. All right, Pretty Wings is here. Betty Boop. Okay, SB, I see you, beloved. Youngish Turnip. All right, Nalin is here. Okay, so shout out to all of my loyal royals and everyone tuned into the Queen, and a big shout out to my moderators because y'all know they be putting in work. I see you, Chili Willie from Philly, Simply Sandra, 27DD. Okay, let's get into it. Penny. POP is here. Thank you, Nala, for becoming a member of my channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. All right. So with that all being said, let's have, hey, Mr. Elevation. Okay, let's have a brief word from my sponsor at 12 Tribes, and then we'll get this party started. Here we go.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
All right, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find her products at Walmart.com. And don't forget that she sells beard oil. Okay, so let's get ready to get into it. All right, I hope everybody is doing good. It is storming here. Okay, but we have to push through. Okay, we have to push through, beloveds. Hey, Buckhorst DC. So let's talk about it because listen, I was looking at the Nancy Grace video, okay, that I showed you all the other night. And I was thinking about, hey Bungani, I was thinking about Brian Trascher, the guy from the Cajun Navy. Now he said, because remember we had spoken about them denying the canines when he said they offered for the canines to get on the boats, okay, the cadaver dogs, and he said that it was denied. They said no, thank you, or no, or whatever. So I was thinking it was the police, but then when I was listening back, he said that Benjamin Crump is the one who said that. Well, I think he's lying. Because how does that even make sense? How does that make sense that he would ask Ben Crump and Ben Crump would say no? Because Ben Crump is not the owner of the boat. How is he going to tell someone else that they can have the cadaver dogs on someone else's boat? Okay. We're also going to listen to the 911 call, the full audio, because another thing is they actually say who owns the boat that they were supposedly on when the boat was sinking or taking on water as they claimed. Okay, and also we find out who canceled the tow. Okay, so before we get into that, I want to go to this young lady's TikTok where she pointed out some inconsistencies in what Warren was saying. Now, the thing is this, I'm inclined to think that Warren is perhaps some sort of psychopath. For him to sit there and tell that story that was obviously rehearsed, he went over it numerous of times in his mind, in my opinion. Okay, he was coached. I don't know if his father, the judge, the mother, the stepmother told him what to say and how to say it. But I told you all the other day when we watched part one of it, that it seemed to me as though he was trying to distance himself from Nolan. He acted as though he was with so many other friends that he really didn't spend too much time with Nolan. But something this young lady pointed out, and I didn't catch this. She says that if you remember, Warren said the last time that he laid eyes on Nolan was 3 p.m. Okay, remember that from the timeline that his stepmother, Judge Ashley Cole, pointed out. She said the same thing, that the last time Warren saw Nolan was 3 p.m. They left the island when their boat started taking on water by 4:31, right? But then in the interview, Warren talks about hearing Nolan say that he's going to stay on the island with Katie. So that would have had to have been around 4:30. So He's not telling the truth. Okay, somewhere there's a lie. But hold on, let's get into it. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I think Nolan was not Nolan. I think Warren was lying about a whole lot. Okay, and that whole thing sounded scripted, as I said.
Warren says the last time he personally laid eyes on Nolan Wells was around 3 o'clock. So, how was he able to give a word for word account of what Nolan allegedly said while the boats were leaving around 4:30? Night shift crew, clock in because I watched all 3 parts of Warren's interviews, and this is the part I need clarified. Part one, Warren said that Horn Island was packed. He wasn't focused on any one person, and he only spoke with Nolan a few times throughout that day. Okay, that makes sense. It was crowded. People was partying. Everybody was moving around. People was just all over the place mingling. That's very, very understandable.
I talked to Nolan a couple times, but it wasn't like I was strictly sitting there talking to Nolan the whole day. I mean, there was hundreds of people I knew out there. So, yeah.
But then in part three, Warren gave a very specific description of the last time that he saw Nolan Wells.
Situation. Well, the last time I saw Nolan was 3 o'clock.
He said exactly that it was around 3 p.m. when he last allegedly saw Nolan cradled up with Katie in his arms. He said he was laughing and that Warren just shook his head and joked with Nolan before he ended up walking away. Warren then said, and listen closely, that this was the last time that he laid eyes on Nolan.
I was like just joking with him. And, but anyway, Nolan, that was the last time I laid eyes on him.
But then Warren started describing the boats leaving around 4:30. The story became even more detailed.
Nolan was sitting by the boat with that Katie girl, and my buddy yelled for Nolan, get on the boat. We're leaving. The boat's having issues. And no, he didn't say that, but he was panicking. Nolan, get the F on the boat. Get on the boat. And Nolan said, no, I'm staying out here. I'm going to ride in with somebody else.
Warren said that one of his friends repeatedly yelled for Nolan to get on the boat. He then recounted Nolan allegedly saying he was staying on the island and would ride back with somebody else. He also said that several people heard the exchange, and he also claimed that Katie later sent a text message confirming that she heard someone calling Nolan back to the boat. But here is the part the interview never clearly answered. Did Warren personally hear Nolan make this statement? Or is Warren repeating what the people who were still near Nolan later told him? Warren says the exchange happened while the group was preparing to leave. This appears to place it around 4:30, but Warren did not assign an exact time to the conversation. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that what he said is false, but when we are building a timeline around somebody's final known movements, we need to know which parts are firsthand and which parts came from another witness. Because I would like to know who this witness is. The boat leaving around 4:30 also lines up closely with the GPS data showing it departed at 4:31. What I'm questioning that remains unclear is Warren's source for the alleged final conversation. Here is my question for the night shift crew. Do you think that Warren personally heard Nolan say that he was staying, or is he repeating the account given to him by his friend or the other people that were near the boat? Maybe like the person that he refused to name that he consistently called Buddy. And if several witnesses heard this exchange, did the investigators confirm that their statements independently matched? Look, I'm following this case from the interviews to the official records. So clock in with the night shift crew by hitting that.
Okay, Warren is lying. That's what he's doing. Nobody told him anything. He's lying. Nolan never told any of them that he was going to stay there with Katie. That's what I don't believe. Okay, I don't believe that. And now this looks like it's proof that he was lying. Now, Dirt Bike Champion says if nobody keeps their phone on them, he or nobody had on watches. So how would he know the exact time was 3 p.m. then when he last saw Nolan? How did he know it was 3 p.m.? Exactly. That's a good question. That's a good question, beloved. Okay. Now, Truth Brown asked a good question as well. You said the water coming in the boat, what would happen to their phones? Well, I wonder if the containers that they put the phones in would have protected them. I don't know. I've not been on a boat. Okay. I've not been on a boat, not like the kind they were on anyway, the Tristan 22 foot. All right. So I'm not sure about that, but that is a good question. But hold on, because now what I want to do, because I'm curious. So now let's go back to part 3 of that interview with Brandon Tatum. Let's go back to that interview so we can hear exactly what he was saying. Because I'm going to tell you like this. I'm inclined to think that he's some sort of psychopath, in my opinion, like I told you all, because the way he sat there and was so cold and callous, I was giving, this bit by bit description. Okay, but no emotions whatsoever. That was really weird. Like no emotions. The whole thing, the whole time he was talking, it was like no highs and lows. It was always like even. A couple of times he would laugh or chuckle like he thought of a fond memory, but it was so cold and callous. Not the least bit reminiscent of someone who cared about the person they're speaking of. And here's the thing. Now, you all know that I'm a serial killer expert. Those of you that have been following me, you know that, right? So what I'm going to tell you is this. At the end of the day, it seems to me like he has that kind of characteristic, like a whole psychopath. Okay, because he showed no emotion. And another thing that he did that serial killers do when they speak about their victims, because I think that if anything happened to Nolan, and which I absolutely believe it did, I think Warren's the one who did it. And I've been thinking that since day one. That was just in my spirit. But I'll say this, one thing that serial killers do, which is the same thing that Warren was doing, is that they disassociate themselves from the victim and they speak about the victim almost as if they're not human, almost as if they're just like some object that they're talking about. Like, go hand me my gloves. Go bring me my coat or my phone. It's like that, not like they're a person. You see, because what you have to do when you're a killer, specifically, this is what some serial killers do. They have to dehumanize the person, okay, so they can excuse in their mind what they're doing to the person or what they're about to do to them or what they did after the fact when they think about it. And that's kind of what it seems like. Okay, somebody said a sociopath. No, I wouldn't say that he's a sociopath. I would say he's a psychopath because the main difference is a sociopath learns their behavior from their surroundings in society. That's why it's called sociopath. A psychopath is born that way with the inability to feel remorse. They have narcissistic tendencies. They're very arrogant and they always think that they know more than other people. And they constantly make excuses and blame others for even their own shortcomings. They never accept any accountability ever. Okay? Psychopaths are always pathological liars as well as narcissists. Now, not all narcissists and pathological liars are psychopaths, but psychopaths and sociopaths, they're always pathological liars and narcissists. Okay? They go hand in hand. Now, with that all being said, let's go to this part 3 of this interview. Like, so everyone, please like and share.
Right out on the Triton, and then we had a Palm Beach, 18 Palm Beach. There was 4 guys on that. The rest of the group, which was ranged from maybe 10 to 15 or 16 people on my buddy's tide line.
Yeah, so y'all pretty much having a good time. And then you guys get ready to leave prematurely.
Right.
And like, explain that, because you guys got there around 10.
Yeah.
It's now 4:30.
Right.
people are still out there partying and
Correct.
they're having a good time, but something happened to where it necessitated you guys to get the boat up and running. Can you explain that?
Yeah. So I had a girl come up to me and say, "Hey, your brother just got in a fight." And obviously I have a younger brother, and that's who she was talking about. And I was freaked out. So I walked over to the beach, and I didn't walk over. I ran over. I made a beeline. I didn't talk to anybody, put my drink down and walked over there. And my brother was kind of angry, and, there was a lot going on, but someone was getting pulled away. I don't know who it was. And my brother was like, "Oh, I just got in a fight, and this guy punched me in the face," and I punched him right back. And then went to the ground, and my brother put him in an arm bar. And
was Nolan involved in any of this?
Absolutely not. When I was over there was a bunch of younger guys like my brother's age. And I mean, Nolan, I never saw Nolan over there.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. And
don't you all find it interesting that now all of a sudden everyone was having fights? Okay, Trayston was having a fight. Now he talks about his brother having a fight. So everybody was having all these fights. Let's keep listening.
But, okay, sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
So you get ready to go. There's an issue with the boat.
Okay, yeah.
And this is
well,
what
this led up to that. That's what I was saying.
So the fight happened with your brother, or a little scuffle. I'm assuming that it was cleared up.
You're right.
You got your brother out of that situation, and then how did you find out that this boat is sinking?
Well, I walk back over, and we're probably around each other for a little bit. I mean, I wasn't thinking anything of it. I pulled my brother off the beach, and I was just like, "Listen, get in the water, hang out with us, calm down." I mean, he was calm, but I didn't want anything else to happen, And so once I got back over to the boat, I got on the Triton, and the Triton had probably about 6 inches of water up to the transom. And I was freaked out because I'm good friends with Wyatt, and that was his boat. And, no water's coming out, no access water's coming out. And, it was a big issue because I think the reason was because there were so many people getting on and off the boat. And at some point, the boat was very, very crowded, and there was just a lot of people on. So that it drags water in. And eventually, I think over time, we were out there for a couple hours. The boat just started filling up with water. So I popped the starboard side hatch, and the battery was completely underwater. And so the motor wouldn't trim down. I mean, my buddy would go to trim it down from the console, and it'd trim down, and then it'd come right back up. And so Wyatt's trying to...
Who is the person that he keeps speaking of, and he keeps referring to them as my buddy? He's not saying this person's name, but then he says Wyatt. Who is he talking about, and why isn't he saying this person's name? What's the deal with that?
Throw a rear anchor, so we're caught, and he's yelling at people. Everybody's kind of freaking out, and eventually I'm yelling at other people, trying to tell them calm down, the boat could possibly sink, and I'm not paying attention to everyone around me. I was paying attention to my buddy's boat, and that's what all my other friends that were on that boat were doing, trying to solve the problem.
So you're on the boat now. The water is getting up to the point where the boat may be disabled to where you couldn't get it out from Horn Island. So what happens after that?
Wyatt jumps to the water, tries to throw a rear anchor, and my buddy Meyer, you're sitting looking, trying to pull trash out the bilge. And the bilge is basically a pump that pulls the water, the access water out the boat. So the bilge was failing to work. So any excess water was just sitting in the boat. It wasn't getting pumped out. And I looked over the gunnel, and I looked at the release hole for the bilge, and it was even with the water. So, I mean, we're all freaking out. All of our, we're not focused on anything else other than the boat. Well, then eventually my buddy Bart on the tide line is like, "I'm going to pull y'all out to where we're out of all this, all this chaos." Cause we left at 4:30, and there were still just as many people there, if not more, than when we got there. I mean, probably around the same amount. I mean, it was crazy. Like there was a lot of people. And I mean, eventually Bart pulls us out. You know, we left at 4:30, but we really weren't pulled out away from everybody. We were probably about a quarter mile out, and we had the towing strap pulled from, you know, Bart's port side cleat or starboard side cleat, and he was on our starboard side bow. And so it was rubbing on his power pole. So Bart turned around, pulled up next to our boat, and we were just trying to get it situated. So that's when Wyatt called Cito. And Wyatt was like, you know, calls him, because the cell service isn't great at the island, but once you can use your phone, but stuff might not just send. And like, I mean, it's not.
I want you all to pay attention to how he's talking about a bunch of nonsense. You ought to pay attention to how he's spewing a bunch of irrelevant information, okay? We don't need to know all of those little minute details. Just get to the point. But he's doing all of this extra babbling, okay, because he knows that he's lying. That's what that is. Anyone that's telling the truth, they're going to just get to the point and cut to the chase and tell you what you need to know or what you want to know about. And in this case, it's Nolan and what happened. All this extra stuff about the bilge and the boat and all this other stuff is just extra.
Not great. You know, you got maybe one bar. It won't work that well. But once you get a little off the island, you have cell coverage. And even on the island, like I called my mom when we were on the island, you know, it was fine. Like we had, you know, enough cell coverage to make a phone call or shoot a text over, but you don't have enough cell coverage to like send a picture, for example. So what?
So I want to go back.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I want to touch on that real quick, because the phone thing came up at some point. And so was it when you guys got off the boat?
Yeah.
I mean, were people taking their phones off the boat, or is that not typical? Because I know that Nolan's phone was left on the boat,
right?
Even though, you know, after you guys had left. So can you explain that? Because I think people need to understand this a little clearer.
Yeah.
Was it typical for people to have their phones left on boats, or did they keep their phones in the water? Or?
Yeah. I mean, everybody kind of goes out to the island to get away from, you know, their phones and everything else. I know I got on the boat to get away from, you know, just the regular world. And no, when you're waist deep in water, no one's carrying their phone in their hand, especially at Horn Island. The water has been very, very murky because of the rain. And
it's a heart-stopping moment as a woman starts choking in her kitchen.
Very risky. If you're going to have your phone in the water, you know, some people might for a couple minutes and like maybe taking some pictures of each other. You know, I know a lot of girls like to take pictures in the water at Horn Island. You know, guys do too. You know, like people like to take pictures, and but a lot of the pictures you see are on the boat for a reason. And so, no, I mean, if someone is on their phone in the water, they're using it real quick and then putting it right back on the boat. We were all waist deep in water. No one's sitting there scrolling on their phone. I never saw that once. And I've never seen that once. And I've been out the Highland my whole life. I mean, that's just not something people do. People aren't on their phones. And everybody has their phone, yes, but it's always on the boat. No one's getting off the boat with their phone. So.
And so you guys get ready to leave out of there, getting towed out.
Yeah.
And then where's Nolan in this situation?
Well, Nolan was, the last time I saw Nolan was 3:00, and Nolan was cradling a girl in his arms, Katie, Katie. And Katie, Nolan was sitting there, and the last time I saw him, I looked at Nolan, and Nolan was like shaking his head, laughing, and I was like, dude, you crazy. I was like just joking with him. And but anyway, Nolan, that was the last time I laid eyes on him. But when we were leaving, obviously, no one is getting left at the island that came with us unless they demanded to, you know, be there and asked, you know, this is a very common thing at Horn Island. When you're out there, a lot of people ride out there with someone and in with somebody else all the time. I've done that 100 times. You know, it's a very common thing. But Nolan was sitting by the boat with that Katie girl, and my buddy yelled for Nolan, get on the boat. We're leaving. The boat's having issues. And like, no, he didn't say that, but he was panicking. Nolan, get the F on the boat. Get on the boat. And Nolan said, no, I'm staying out here. I'm going to ride in with somebody else. And it's not uncommon to hear, but it's not like my buddy asked him one time. My buddy asked Nolan multiple times to get on the boat. Nolan, get on the boat. Get on the boat. We're leaving. If you're coming, you got to come now. And Nolan made a decision to stay out on the island. And like he said, you know.
How many people heard that? Were there just,
at least
just a
5
few, or?
to, I mean, everyone that was on our boat right there, because the Palm Beach had already left. My buddy went ahead and went home on the Palm Beach, and 3 guys on the way back. And Nolan wasn't the only person to ride out there with us and in with somebody else. I mean, we had multiple people in our group that rode out with us and rode in on someone else's boat. And that, like I said, that's not an uncommon thing to do. You know, I mean, a lot of people do that. I could name probably 50 people out there that day that ran out with somebody and ran back in with somebody else. So, I mean, it's not like it's an uncommon thing, but it's not like we just left him there, or my friends just left him there. Nolan made a decision to stay on the island after my friends asked him multiple times and told him to get on the boat, and he decided to stay.
And I heard the girl that he was with, Katie, had texted somebody.
I want you all to pay attention to how he was very accusatory just now. He's not Nolan's best friend. He never was. Did you all hear that? My friends kept asking Nolan to get on the boat, but Nolan just refused. He's blaming Nolan for this. I just want you all to pay attention to that and how he keeps talking about my friends. So they weren't Nolan's friends too? I thought all of them were friends, but they're his friends, not Nolan's, because that's what it sounds like. Okay, that's what it sounds like. Nolan says, his story does not math at all. Exactly, beloved. I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. Thank you for your insight to the topic and your contribution. Peace, love, and blessings.
Yeah.
That she heard people yelling
correct
for Nolan to get on it. Is that true?
And I have a picture of that. She texted my buddy, and the next day everybody was panicking and everybody's texting Katie, you know, because she was obviously seen with Nolan the whole day at the island. Katie sent a message to my buddy the next day and said, you know, this is the last time I saw him, you know, he's really sweet. But she also mentioned that the last time she saw Nolan was when my buddy was yelling at him to get on the boat. And she was right there to see that Nolan decided not to.
Yeah. And so you guys get in the boat, you start to get towed in, and you make it back. Now explain how that you get to the point where you were concerned about Nolan, because obviously you said, hey, Nolan, y'all need to, or somebody, not
when
you,
did I get
but
to that point?
You guys had made mention Nolan need to get on a boat.
Yeah.
He didn't.
Yeah.
You guys get back to wherever you're going.
Right.
Explain that. Did you guys go back to somebody's house, or you guys like what happened there? And then when did you feel like, well, wait a minute, where's Nolan?
Right. Okay. Well, running in was very chaotic. I mean, Nolan chose to stay on the island, so my focus wasn't on anything else other than the boat, you know, because if the boat doesn't get in, then no one gets in. You know, I don't want to sink out there on my buddy's boat, and no one does. But my buddy Wyatt jumped out and pulled the plug on the boat once we kind of got out there, because he got the motor to trim down, and the motor trimmed down. My buddy Wyatt pulled the plug, and we planed off. We moved all the weight to the front of the boat so we could plane off, and eventually we planed off, and the boat was running. So when you're planed off and you have water in the boat and you're hauling, you know, we're going pretty fast. We're going probably 40, 42 miles an hour. And so all that excess water that was built up in the boat is coming out of the boat. So, I mean, that's what we had to do. So we ran into Fort Bayou, and we didn't just run straight to my buddy's grandparents' house. We ran into Fort Bayou. A couple of us jumped in the water, and Wyatt, like, the whole reason for the stop was so Wyatt could hop in and put the plug back in the boat. So then after that, we went and docked it, and I went back to my buddy's house, and we ate and, napped for a little bit. It was a long day at the island, so, we were all tired. And eventually we go over to, a girlfriend of mine. She was having people over for 4th of July. We were doing like fireworks and stuff. So we all went over there to swim and, hang out. And
this infamous picture that I've seen online of Nolan in the water in the swimming pool.
Yeah.
where is this picture associated with? Because you said you guys went back to swim. Nolan wasn't with you.
Yeah.
So where's this picture at? Like, what's the context around that picture that's been floating?
That picture is taken on June 27th, a week before the 4th of July. We all went to a friend of ours in Pass Christian. We have a lot of friends from Bay St. Louis, Pass Christian. We all went over there to hang out, and
And Nolan was in that picture.
Nolan was in that picture, and if you look in the picture, my arm is around Nolan in that picture. And I mean, that was a week before the 4th of July, so that picture is not associated within even the same. I mean, that was like a week before, so yeah.
So you guys are now at swimming and having a good time at a lady friend's house.
Right. I never got to the pool. I talked to her dad for a while, and I mean, all my friends were downstairs. I went upstairs, talked to her dad. We were talking about boats and stuff, and I've been with my friends all day. I was just talking to everybody, but
so you talked to the young lady's dad, and then how long was it before you realized, or you guys realized that, well, where's Nolan at?
I mean, I went back downstairs, and all my friends were just hanging out, and my buddy Wyatt had addressed, talking about Nolan, and I was like, well, where is Nolan? Have y'all heard from him? And he was like, no, we haven't. And I was like, okay, well, it's a little concerning. Like, I mean, I'm not freaking out or anything, but like, I'm trying to find out where Nolan is. So I texted Javon, and I was like, hey, and also a couple other buddies that I had at the island. I was like, hey, have y'all seen Nolan? Did he ride in with y'all? And all my buddies were like, no. Well, I texted Javon, and I was like, hey, can you send me Miss Christine's number? Because I haven't heard from Nolan. And if she hasn't heard from Nolan, then I'm calling the Coast Guard.
Now, I find that very interesting. He's Nolan's best friend, but he didn't even know Nolan's mom's number. He had to get it from another friend. Okay? Please pay attention. That's very telling.
And so eventually, Javon sends me her number.
Who is her? That's
Miss Christine.
Miss Christine is
Nolan's mom.
Nolan's mom. Okay.
Yeah. And I walked down to the dock because, I mean, there was a lot of people at Ava. It's not a lot, but, there was probably 15 of our friends there. And I was just like, walked down to the dock with a couple of my buddies, and I got on the phone. I called Miss Christine, called her the first time. She didn't answer. I called her a second time, and I got on the phone with her, and I asked her if she had heard from Nolan. She said no. And I said, all right, well, don't freak out. I'm going to call the Coast Guard. And this was at about 11 o'clock.
So what's your intent in calling the Coast Guard, right? Because right now, Nolan could be with a chick. He could be with somebody else.
Right.
He could have gone back with somebody else. What made you concerned enough that you felt like you couldn't weigh it out anymore? You had to call the Coast Guard.
Well, I mean, like I said, my friends and I have been on the water our whole life. Stuff happens. People die all the time. I know people that have died out there. And, it's a fun place to be, but it's also a very, very dangerous place to be if you're not handling it right. And Nolan, so I hadn't heard from him. And obviously, I'm thinking I'd way rather be safe than sorry.
Now, pay attention to how he said people die out there all the time. It's a fun place, but it's also a very dangerous place. But yet, you left your friend who you claim was drunk out there. Okay? Let's continue.
I mean, I would rather call the Coast Guard 100 times and lose my mind over it, and my buddy be okay, than, not, and me not know where he is and him not be okay. And so I called the Coast Guard, and I talked to them on the phone for like 20 minutes, gave him a description, what Nolan was wearing, the last place we were at, the last time I saw him, who we were with, what boat we were on, the conditions of the water, just a summary. And I called Miss Christine back after, and I talked to her. And I said, I got in contact with the Coast Guard. I'm not sure who she called or, what she did, but I think she said she was going to make a couple phone calls to either DMR or Jackson County Sheriff's Office. And I was thinking worst case scenario. Like, I would way rather be safe than sorry about this.
Another thing I want you all to pay attention to is I did some research on Horn Island. He says that people die out there all the time and it could be a dangerous place. Well, when I looked it up to see who died out there, first of all, I only found like 2 people. Some guy from some years ago, and it was a black guy. Something happened to him, but it was nobody's fault from the sounds of it. I forget his name, but also Nolan. Those are the only 2 names that popped up. Okay, those are the only 2 names that popped up, and he's straight up lying. But let's continue.
You know.
Yeah. So you called. So it seems like you called mom immediately.
Right.
Probably the first phone call that she got from anybody.
That's the first phone call, like at least I made, and I would assume that's the first phone call she got from anybody. Because
Let me just tell you all something. What he's saying does not make any sense to me. Now, when Tatum asked him what made him automatically want to call the Coast Guard, which is what I said initially, right? Okay, because why wouldn't you think that he was with Katie or he was somewhere having a good time? Okay, I just have questions. You automatically start thinking that something nefarious happened to the point that you call the Coast Guard. And then he said he's calling Miss Christine, and if she hasn't heard from him, I'm calling the Coast Guard. His lies are just so easy to see through. Okay, this is what he said is not making a bit of sense. Let's continue.
Javon hadn't called her, and you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but Javon hadn't called her, and I mean, I was just worried about my friend, you know.
Now pay attention. Pay attention. All the other times when he's referring to Nolan, he specifically calls him just Nolan, my buddy, my friend. And then when he mentions Nolan, it's Nolan. But right now, in this moment, when he wants us to know that Javon didn't call Miss Christine, why did he have to mention that? Like he's giving himself a pat on the back. Like he wants us to look at him favorably. Yeah, I'm the one that called. Javon didn't call. Okay, pay attention to that. And then he says, I just wanted to check on my friend. Now, all of a sudden, he refers to Nolan as his friend. Okay, did you all catch that? Let's continue.
Stuff happens out there, boat problems, it could be anything. But I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happens out there, and I was just worried about my friend.
And so you guys made that call, nothing that night. And I'm assuming you wake up the next day, and then what happens?
I wake up the next day at about 7:30, and my dad had texted me because obviously Nolan's photo was all over Facebook, and you know, I just saw it everywhere, and I was freaked out because I was like, oh my gosh, like that, you know, I assumed, you know, Nolan's just, you know, we had been drinking all day, and like, you know, that he's just sleeping somewhere, and you know, that he's okay. But I didn't want to believe that if we didn't know for sure. So, I mean, next day I woke up and my stepdad walked to my room and he said, hey, like, have they?
Okay, I'm going to stop it right here because we've heard all of this. And quite frankly, I'm really sick and tired of listening to his lies and BS. Okay, so now what I want to do is let's switch gears. Okay, because let's go to Brian Trascher, the guy from the Cajun Navy, when he says that Ben Crump is the one who didn't want the K9 on the boat. Which that has to be a lie. Why would Ben Crump tell him that? First of all, Ben Crump has no authority over someone else's boat. Okay, he doesn't have any authority over someone else's boat, so that doesn't even make sense to me. Now, why would he say that? Because he's trying to make it seem as though Ben Crump is the one trying to hamper his own investigation. Like, make it all make sense.
Back to you, Brian Trascher.
Hold on, let me put an overlay on this. I almost forgot.
Sure. What can you tell me about an offer to the family regarding cadaver dogs?
Yeah, so you know, obviously the online chatter started right away. People were coming up with all kind of bizarre theories about how he was, you know, he came back to the island, they took him back out there and dumped him, all this kind of stuff. So we just said, hey, one of our top, you know, canine teams happens to be in Jackson County, Mississippi. Jackson County Canine is their name. I said, we'll be happy to have these cadaver dogs go over and inspect the boat. And we told this to Crump's legal team. And so we'll have them go inspect the boat, and they'll be able to tell if there's decomp on that boat. And they said, oh, well, we heard they cleaned the boat. I said, no, there's only one chemical that you could possibly get rid of decomp with. And I guarantee these people don't know what it is. So there's no way they could be a month later, these dogs would be able to smell the decomp. And they would also have Nolan sent, if he was on the boat alive, but they would also know if there was a dead body on that boat. And they declined. They said, nah, we don't think so. So I'm not sure why they didn't want to dispel that right away. We would have known right away if the dead body had been on that boat.
Okay, Crump. Why aren't you allowing the cadaver dog team onto that boat?
Now, see there. Now, he said they spoke to the family, as in Nolan's family, and then Crump said no to the cadaver dogs. How the hell can Crump or the family give permission for any cadaver dogs to get on someone else's boat? Okay, I'm sorry. First of all, here's the thing. If the police want to do it, they even need a warrant. Okay? So how is he sitting here saying that this is Ben Crump's fault and that the family and Crump basically didn't want the dogs on there? That makes no sense. This dude is lying. And I've been noticing some shady stuff about him for quite a minute. The other guy with the beard seemed to be more forthcoming. But if you notice, no one's asking him to come on their shows because he was the first one that seemed that he thought something was suspicious. What he literally said was, with all those hundreds of people out there, he's not buying it that nobody saw something. That's what the other guy said. So where in the hell is he? Why do we keep getting this guy talking? Because this guy's helping them to paint their narrative. I don't know if someone paid him off or he's just saying it because he's, white tea or whatever. But at the end of the day, I find it interesting because that's a whole ass lie. How is Ben Crump going to be in charge of somebody else's boat? Okay? You'd have to ask the person who owned the boat if you can bring the dogs. Mentioning that to Ben Crump, that's not going to get you anywhere because he has no authority. Not to mention, I literally looked it up to see if he actually asked Ben Crump that. And it said there's no verified reports or anything that ever was something Ben Crump said. So he's lying. Okay, he has to be lying. And why is he lying? I don't know. Other than the fact that maybe he's trying to help them paint their nefarious narrative. That's what it sounds like.
We need to know. Brian Trascher, you made it sound very mysterious. What is the solution used to get rid of human decomposition?
Well, I'm not going to say that on the air. There might be somebody watching that's trying to hide a dead body as we speak, but people can do.
Are you referring to muriatic acid?
No, it's a specific kind of product that's on the market that is used. Matter of fact, some of our team just went through a training in Texas, and one of the things they did was show them how to clean out a vehicle or something that had decomp on it with this particular solution. And they would have had to take screws off, and they would have to be very detailed if they were trying to hide something. So there's virtually no way that the dogs would not have picked this up.
Did they give any explanation as to why they didn't want the cadaver dogs on the boat? There could be an explanation. Did they give one?
Not to us, they didn't. No, we just assumed that it. I'm speculating, but if we would have known right away that there was no dead body on that boat, it might have defeated some narratives that were being pushed out there at the time.
That man is lying. That man is lying. Hold on. I'm about to prove it to you that he's telling a whole ass lie. Hold on. Right now. Hold on. I'm going to go to it right now. He's lying. Okay, like I said, Ben Crump has no authority over someone else's boat. Now, mind you, for those of you who missed the morning broadcast, I reported that they said the boat was searched. Okay, that the police supposedly searched the boat. But did they bring cadaver dogs on it? They didn't mention that. Did they use luminol to see if there was any blood or any other type of bodily fluids? They didn't say anything about that. They just said it was searched and that they were told that they could take away any evidence that they felt was going to be relevant to the case. Okay, now here's what I typed in. Pay attention. It said, I typed in, did Ben Crump refuse the K9 search of the boat? No, Ben Crump did not refuse a K9 search. Rather, internet rumors and comments from search groups like the United Cajun Navy alleged that the boat owners or legal representatives did not initially agree to allow a cadaver dog search on the private vessel involved in the Nolan Wells case, while Crump's team instead pursued mutual inspections and official warrants. Because that's what you would need. Like I said, you would need a search warrant. Okay, so they said Crump was pursuing a warrant. And that's what you would need. You can't just tell somebody, yeah, go ahead, bring the dogs, go search these people's boat. Okay, sitting up there lying. Now, next thing I want to go to is this video where this woman, well, first of all, let's go to this therapist again. The therapist that we listened to this morning that was talking about Warren's body language and all of that and the things that he was saying. Well, he's done another video, so we're going to go to that first. Then after we're done, we're going to hear what a doctor says, okay, about the part of the information about his throat being missing. Because the doctor said they thought it was suspicious. Okay, they thought it was suspicious. And attorney Carlos Moore basically says that it's murder. Okay, he seems to think that it's murder. And that's what I think too. And I'll tell you another thing. I spoke to my uncle that's a retired Homeland Security investigator and also a case agent for Homeland Security investigations, but also worked with the GBI. My uncle told me that everything they have done shows that they absolutely did something to him. Okay, that they absolutely did something to him. That's just what it is. Okay, it's not no accidental drowning. My uncle said everything that they have done, from them lawyering up right away, he said innocent people don't run and get a lawyer as soon as they found out that their so-called friend is dead. Okay? As soon as they find out that their so-called friend is dead, when Nolan's body washed up on the shore on that Monday, because I was thinking that they got the lawyers beforehand, but no, they actually got their lawyers, okay, after his body washed up. Okay, but the bottom line is if your friend's found dead, you should be going to the police, the family, and whoever you can to give information to see if there's any way you can assist. Not thinking about yourself and going to get a lawyer. Okay, make that make sense. Byron, beloved, thank you for your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. There's a whole lot of lies going on. This is a serious cover-up. Okay, C-Stan just gifted 5 memberships to the channel. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate you for your generosity. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, you all be sure to thank C-Stan for the memberships, okay, the gifted memberships, especially those of you who received them. Now, let's go to this because we already know he's lying about the canines and Ben Crump and the family. So let's go to this therapist. And after that, then we're going to listen to what this doctor has to say. Okay, a medical expert about this whole autopsy BS. Like stuff, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance.
That I saw of Warren Hudson discussing the details of the day that he got separated from Nolan Wells when he went missing. I want you to watch this clip and let me explain the things that stood out to me as I watched it.
People say that you guys just left Nolan behind. I've seen reports of people saying that you just left him. I see reports of people saying that you asked him to get on the boat. You told him to get on the boat. He didn't. What's the truth in that?
Well, Wyatt was having boat issues and the bilge wouldn't pump. So the bilge is basically a pump that releases water from your boat when water comes in. So I opened the back hatch and there's water up to the batteries. And that is obviously not good. There's water almost coming over the transom, which is where your motors sit and which is by the stern, like in the back part of the boat. So obviously we were in emergency. The boat, we're trying to save the boat. It's not like we didn't ask Nolan or we just left Nolan. Nolan decided to stay on the island with the girl that he was with. And the girl is a witness to that too.
Yeah.
I'm a practicing psychotherapist. I've been working with clients who've been struggling with issues like things like grief for over 20 years. And this young man is behaving very unusually. I'm going to give you some examples to demonstrate as to what I mean. Number one, the person doing the interview, whose name I will not say because I do not support him, he brought him to the location where this happened. That should have been a massive trigger. You just lost your best friend that you say is like a brother to me, that you explained we went to elementary school, middle school, high school together and continued to stay close through our first year of college. And now you're going back to the site where he lost his life. That is unusual. People who experience an emotional connect to somebody and they lose them, you could take that person back to the spot where they lost a friend or loved one 30 years later and it should trigger them. You're back 2 weeks later and having no emotional response to being in that location. That is very, very odd. I also strongly believe that his interview and his responses are being coached and was well rehearsed. Notice how many times, and you can see this throughout all of the interviews, but notice how many times he repeats himself. He doesn't refer to Nolan by any other phrase except Nolan. He doesn't say, man, my boy, or my good buddy. I can't believe he doesn't say any of that. Just Nolan. That is unusual, and that level of repetitiveness tells me that this is a rehearsed response. Now, as a psychotherapist, we get trained as this kind of thing because very often we interview children who've had a traumatic experience through the family courts, like domestic violence or a divorce proceeding, or sometimes through SA. We have to interview children, and you can tell when the children have been coached by exactly things like this. I'll give you another thing that's really important that stood out to me. When people lie, they go into deep, irrelevant details. So when he was asking that clip about, like, did you ask Nolan to come back with you? He goes into a deep explanation on what a bilge is and the functionality of a boat. That has nothing to do with what is going on right now. But when people are telling stories, they oftentimes will give very deep explanations that have absolutely nothing to do with the content of the conversation itself.
And isn't that exactly what I told you all when we were listening to it before? That's exactly what I said. He's telling such irrelevant details. It's just mindless babble. It has nothing to do with the question at hand, which is what in the hell happened to Nolan? Let's continue.
These are all things that let me know this young man is hiding something. I do not know what. I cannot tell you exactly what it is, but this would be incredibly alarming. And I think the last thing is he describes like Nolan want to stay with a girl, but 100% he should absolutely be saying things like, I wish I hadn't let him. Something told me, man, we need to stick together as a group. I wish I had asked one of the other friends to stay on the boat with Nolan. There is no evidence of remorse coming from this young man at all. He is simply repeating the story, detail by detail, with no remorse, no tears, no pain, no anxiety, no affect change as he tells the story. He's just telling the story, and he's explaining it in such a way that absolves him of any responsibility and puts all of the responsibility on Nolan. He has previously in other interviews said Nolan was drinking. He did not say we were drinking. He said Nolan wanted to stay. He did not say we supported Nolan saying, like, it's just all on Nolan. And again, 100% of the time, he should be saying something like, Nolan wanted to stay with the girl, but I wish we hadn't let him. Nolan wanted to stay with the girl, but we shouldn't have let him do that by himself. One of us should have stayed with him. He's not saying any of that. He is simply recounting the details of the story as if it's like a chapter in a book, as if it was just like a random day where nothing unusual happened, not like it's the day where he lost his best friend and someone he refers to as brother. What did you notice in the comments, and what did you think of my?
I thought it was a good analysis, and I think that he's a whole liar. Okay, now let's go to this doctor. Medical experts break down Nolan Wells' autopsy results. This is what we need right here. Okay, this is what we need right here to hear what the professionals have to say about this. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. A shout out to Don Lemon for getting these people on the show.
Things are concerning. First, I want to say kudos to the medical examiner, Dr. Roger Mitchell. He was brilliant in his presentation, professional. He stuck to the facts. He did not jump to any conclusions. However, he did give explanations and differential diagnoses of what the possibilities were. He was honest about the limitations of his exam, since his was the second autopsy. Okay, he was honest about the limitations, and he was also open about the questions that were left. And so with the initial report, he shared that the cause of death, the manner of death are undetermined. These are the things that stuck out to me, Don and Monique. That lesion on the back of the head. So occipital region, yes, that's in the very back of the head. And there was a red lesion, 12 centimeters by 8 centimeters, I believe. And we don't know the cause, though he did dissect it, Dr. Mitchell did, but it makes you think of the possibilities. Could there have been blunt force trauma? Was this a bruise? Is this just a post-mortem finding, meaning did just, blood and fluid collect there after his death? There are key things he also mentioned there. He said that there was no fracture, But the most important missing information from that red lesion on the back of Nolan's head is that we don't know what the brain showed. Did he have an intracranial hemorrhage? Was there a trauma that caused him to bleed? And was that the cause of death? We don't know. Therefore, it's undetermined. But I do love the way Dr. Mitchell shared what he could determine, what he couldn't determine, because again, he had the second autopsy. Someone had Nolan's body first, the Mississippi medical examiners. The other thing that was of the greatest significance to me, almost jumped out of my seat, because I'll tell you, right before coming on with you, I had a discussion with my father, Dr. Freddie McRae, who's a retired general peripheral vascular surgeon who has done autopsies, who's been in medicine for decades. And so we were just kind of chit-chatting about autopsies, the way that our father and daughter conversations go. And what I said to him, I said, I'm really curious to see that hyoid bone. And he was like, yeah, I want to see the anterior neck. Anterior means the front of this part. And so he was like, yeah, I want to see what the anterior neck showed so we can see if there's any ligatures. And so we were talking. So that was the main thing I was listening for, okay? The anterior neck. And so to find that there was an absence of the part of Nolan's body that could have given us some of the most critical information, whether it, said that harm was done or no harm was done. I was looking to see the hyoid bone because had it been displaced, had it been broken, then that could be consistent with some type of a choking or pressure on the neck or an asphyxiation, okay? And then had the hyoid bone been completely intact, that would give us different information, extremely significant information. And I find it highly suspicious that that very critical part of the medical examination is missing. The neck is missing. Also, like I said, I want to see, are there ligature marks? Was there something around his neck? Was there bruising? All of that could have been answered by giving us the information of what's going on with the larynx, the trachea, all of the breathing apparatus in the front of the neck. It's missing. We need answers. This is suspicious. And the lungs, from the very beginning, we had the officer saying, oh yeah, it looks like it was a drowning. It looks like it was a drowning. We should have been able to find the information because had there been a drowning, there would have been evidence of fluid water going into that anterior neck we're missing and going into the lungs, a water-filled lungs. However, had Nolan already been deceased before his body hit the water, that epiglottis, that connection between the throat and the lungs would have been closed and his lungs would not have been filled with water. And so we need to know what the lungs show. And a medical examiner, a pathologist, will be able to tell the difference between, say, drug overdose, which, you hear all kinds of internet sleuths talk about. We would have been able to tell the difference. And, but it's not just, what was found, it's also what was not found. Dr. Mitchell went through and said that he carefully dissected, the buttocks, the legs, the chest, the arms. He was so detailed and he let us know what he did not find. That he did not find any broken bones, no fractured bones, that he did not find any evidence, at least in this postmortem state, of any bruises. And so I appreciate that because it lets us know that this is not some biased gotcha moment. Let me only tell you things that are intriguing to the media. He went through and systematically did what an excellent pathologist will do. He'll tell you all of the findings. And so now we have a bruise in the back of the head. We have a missing neck. We don't know the condition of the lungs. And also we already were at a disadvantage because it was 4th of July or the 6th of July. We're not sure when he passed away, but that the water would have been warm in Mississippi. That would have accelerated decomposure. And so this was an examination done with many limitations, but Dr. Roger Mitchell, the medical examiner, did a superior job with the information that he had in the way that he lined it up. And so that we can all understand the story that's being told and the story that is missing.
Okay, Aqua Girl Rising says, yes, a drowning is easy to prove. No, it isn't, beloved. And that's not what she said. She said that it would have helped them to know if they had the lungs, okay, and the airway. Now, with that all being said, a drowning is not easy to prove. I already showed the proof on that yesterday. Okay, it is not always easy to prove. For the most part, it's very difficult to prove because that's the cause of death, not the manner of death in cases. Okay. The Klan has people in important places. Yeah, we know. They sabotaged Nolan's body. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because why did they take out all those parts? Why did they need to remove his brain? Because if the brain were still there, they would likely, or Dr. Mitchell would likely have been able to tell if there was a blow to the back of the head for sure, because there may have been some sort of hemorrhaging. Now, my uncle seems to think from the pictures released from the autopsy, the independent autopsy, that the trauma, or the trauma that they were talking about with the reddening on the back of the neck, and then the in the occipital area, he seems to think that he was hit very, very hard, okay, in the back of the head with something akin to a baseball bat. Okay, that's what my uncle said. He said that and like I said, my uncle worked with the GBI and Homeland Security Investigations as a case agent. So that's what I'm telling you. He said that or a case manager, he seems to think that it was something very hard that he was hit with in the back of the head. Now, the brain, having been there, would have told us more information on that, of course.
Nolan Xavier Wells' body.
So do you agree with the inconclusive that was stated today?
I absolutely do. I absolutely do. And it also gives you a certain manner of respect for the pathologist, because he's not someone who's speculating or jumping to conclusions. He's honest about the limitations. More importantly, he's honest about the findings.
Doctor, we know that you're very busy. We've been trying to get you on. You've been in surgery and you've been handling your business and doing what you're supposed to do. But you've also been keeping up with this story, I'm sure. And good evening to you.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm so sorry it's under these circumstances.
Yeah, right. So as you've been watching this and you saw the preliminary autopsy report, what did you think, Doc?
Hold on. Gas Blunts, are you trolling, saying that Crump has the lungs and wouldn't answer if the lungs had water? Crump does not have the lungs. How would he have them? Okay, how would he have them? The body was in possession of the medical examiner and then sent to Washington. At no time did Crump ever have the body or any parts of the body in his own possession. Okay, now if you're trolling, just say that.
Sure.
Well, you know, the first thing that I thought is that they've not had enough time. And I know that is the most frustrating thing ever, especially a grieving family. I mean, I have a son myself. It's just unimaginable. But, you know, it is so important for the autopsy to be done right. And autopsies are really done in two parts. First, there's the physical part that usually takes somewhere from a day to 4 days, not that long, where it's quite literally just a dissection of the body to just see, were there any fractures, any injuries, any bleeding, things of that nature. And then the second part really is what takes a lot of time. It can take up to 12 weeks sometimes to do toxicology, which is looking at, you know, what types of chemicals may be in the blood, for example, doing histology, where you actually take samples of different organs, different parts of the body, and look at it under a microscope. And that can really take a long time to not only determine what is there, but also what was there previously potentially, and what could have been the cause of death. And then that, in conjunction with some of the other external findings, where the body was found, what location, things of that nature, ultimately allows the coroner to come out with a cause of death, usually a primary cause and a secondary cause. And then, of course, that's going to be part of public record. And in this case, potentially a criminal investigation. We just don't know anything yet. So that's why it's just so important that it's done properly. And it's only been at this point about 2.5 weeks. So we do need a bit more time.
You know, yesterday it struck me that people don't know a lot about autopsies and just how invasive they are, because when Ben Crump mentioned that the organs had been removed, people gasped. And I mean, I knew, it's like, well, that's what they do in an autopsy. It is very invasive, correct?
That's exactly right. I mean, and in fact, the second autopsy that the family had asked for was even more invasive, and they actually detail in the report why. A typical autopsy will involve removal of each organ, weighing it independently, and really thoroughly examining it. Because you can tell, for example, you know, if a person did drown and they inhaled water, the lungs will show signs of that. Versus if they were dead before they went into the water, the lungs will show signs of not having any water inhaled.
So I'm saying,
Okay, let me address this. Gas Blunt says, LOL, I don't mean literally Crump, but his people. No way people that slow. No one is slow. You literally said Crump. So I'm not going to assume what you meant. I'm not a mind reader. Okay, you said Crump. Now I answered you according to what you said. It's not my job to sit here and think about and ponder on what you may have meant. That's for number one. But for number two, you're lying. Okay, Crump's team never had the lungs. If they did, then they would have been able to assess that. They did not have the lungs nor the throat and many of the other organs, such as the brain. Okay, so your information is incorrect, and I don't know where you got it. And that's what led me to think, because what you said sounds ignorant. Okay, because they already said they didn't have the lungs. Okay, so that's why I asked you if you're trolling.
As simple as that can tell you potentially what the cause was. And so each organ really needs to be evaluated independently. So it is removed from the body. It is then put back. And then ultimately that body as a whole was sent for the secondary autopsy. But in the secondary autopsy, there's even a description of them going further, where they did a dissection of the face, some of the neck muscles. And the reason for that was to really examine, were there fractures? Were there any other causes of injury? Because at that point, the body was decomposed to the point where it was impossible to tell externally what was going on. So it is extremely invasive. It takes a lot of time, and it takes someone who really understands what they're doing, usually an MD, of course, who's gone into pathology as a specialty, who can then put things together. And their job is to just report, hey, this is what I saw in the heart. This is what I saw in the lungs. And then that all put together with the external forces is what tells you what the cause of death actually was.
Doctor, this is a moment from the press conference informing us about the initial findings in the autopsy that struck most people. Here it is.
He talked about how he found red discoloration when he cut open into the back of his head towards the occipital bone, and he saw the red discoloration, and we actually saw the pictures of it. It's significant. You can't help but notice, why is this dark red here in the back of his head? And so he was important to note that in his report.
Okay, I'm only going to say this once. Everyone, please pay attention. Don't put any racially charged comments in my chat. If you do, the comment will be deleted. And if you do it again, you'll be blocked. Okay, let's continue.
And what do you make? Does that mean anything? Because I'm told, and you can correct me, that it could be something, signs of trauma or something, or it could be just where the blood pooled. I know he was found face down. So, I don't know. Please, doctor, that's your expertise.
Absolutely. At this point, it means nothing. And not it means nothing that it isn't going to ultimately lead to a kind of an explanation, but it is at this point just an independent finding, because along with that same sentence was that there was no external signs of injury. So for example, let's say if he was struck in the back of the head, right? To get a mark on the inside of the body, you would have something showing on the outside as well. And there wasn't. This was deep underneath tissue after a dissection of that area was performed, which is a new dissection that was not performed in the initial examination. And indeed, like you said, when somebody is lying on a table after they're deceased, there are certain points of the body. The occiput, which is the back of the head, is one of those points. That is where gravity kind of pulls the most. And it is not impossible that this is discoloration from congealed blood, which would be, again, normal, but a post-mortem finding, not something that would have necessarily happened when he was alive. But that's just one total kind of theory explanation. There are other things that could also potentially cause this, but at this point, alone as a finding, it has no meaning.
6 months ago, I received my autism diagnosis at age 4.
Doctor, I know this is a silly question, and I've been doing this for a long time, and I've never thought about it. For a drowning, if someone, let's just say it's drowning, and they didn't even really discuss that, but I'm just saying, if it's a drowning, does one typically, does a body automatically turn over? Can you be face up or face down? Or do you understand what I'm?
I do.
What I'm saying? I don't know, honestly.
It depends. it depends, because remember, it's got to do with weight, whether you float or whether you come down. And like, let's say at the time initially when the person is actually drowning, they sink. But then over time, when a person is deceased, they'll start to bloat. And so it really depends on timing and when the body was found. Can they be turned one way or another? It depends on things like the external forces, like even waves. You know, if somebody was in an upright position and then they came to the top, they could, in theory, come flat up, depending again on what's more light. And then that's just pure physics and the type of water, the density of the water, the density of the body, how much air is trapped within them, at what point in the decay process. So can they be in different positions? Definitely. Why? That's, you know, it can even, I mean, not to get really grotesque about things, but even things like animals can, you know, turn a body, and that has absolutely been something that we've seen in the past. So it is hard to say that particular finding at that time means something.
Well, we had Dr. Frida on, and she said the same thing. She goes, listen, I don't mean to be grotesque, as you said, but there are creatures that live in the water and they feed off of things that are in the water. So you're right. And it is what it is. Doctor, thank you. Did I miss anything? I'm asking everybody that before we let you go.
Not miss, but I'll just say, you know, this again, as frustrating as it is, this takes time. The autopsy is really important. The autopsy is going to give the family answers. Nothing will bring Nolan back, but we'll tell them what happened and give some peace and closure. And we owe it to them, at least, to really take time, do this properly, and give those true answers to them so that they're not left for the rest of their lives waiting. And so making speculative assumptions or anything like that should be really on hold for this one.
Thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate you.
Yeah, that throat missing is definitely suspicious. Okay, so now I want to go to Brandon Tatum and Stephen A. Smith, because I told you all last night that I thought it was very interesting that Stephen A. Smith appeared to be on the side more so of Nolan's family, and I thought that was interesting because both he and Brandon, in my opinion, are raccoons. Okay, but let's get into it. Likes up, everyone. Please like and share. Thank you in advance.
Tell us. I mean, the Nolan Wells case has been in the news for nearly 3 weeks now. For those who may not be aware of the case or have not kept up with the facts, just to recap, he was an 18-year-old college football player from Ocean Springs, Mississippi. On July 4th, he and a group of friends traveled by private boat to Horn Island, an uninhabited barrier island off the Mississippi coast. Wells was the only black person on the boat. Wells was last seen on the island around 3 p.m. His friends returned to the mainland without him. And as a result, ultimately, a couple of days later, he was found dead. Charles Coleman Jr., at this particular juncture, what's on your mind in terms of this case? What's missing? What are your thoughts?
Well, Stephen A., we just saw the family release their independent autopsy results yesterday, which were conducted by Dr. Roger Mitchell, who is the president of the National Medical Association. And those results were inconclusive. They were able to establish that Nolan Wells did not die by accident, that he did not die of natural causes, but at the same time that they were not able to establish that this was a homicide. In fact, those results established that it was not a homicide. Now, one important caveat to note is that the chief medical officer from the state of Mississippi, the sheriff's office, removed the throat from Nolan Wells's autopsy when their autopsy was conducted first. We have not heard the results of the state's autopsy, but we know that when Roger Mitchell examined the body for the family, that the throat and other organs have been removed. So that your listeners understand, that's not abnormal. That is something that takes place normally during the case of an investigation and of an autopsy. So there's nothing that was wrong there. But at this point, Dr. Roger Mitchell, who did the independent autopsy from the family, has not been able to confirm any sense of foul play.
Are you single? Maybe you're divorced.
Because number one, Benjamin Crump has extensive experience when it comes to wrongful death suits. Number two, in this situation, it is possible that there may be an element that Nolan Wells' civil rights were violated and that something may have happened to him because of his color, which is why you get a civil rights attorney, which is why you get a civil rights attorney. And so that is the answer to your question.
It's about
As
color.
a former prosecutor, you let the police and the sheriff's office deal with the notion of criminality because that is one thing that Benjamin Crump can't do anything about. But
Well, let's say this, brother. Can I jump in here?
That's why you go get someone like Benjamin Crump.
Why wouldn't the kids get civil rights? Like, for instance, people were saying, why did these kids lawyer up? Well, first of all, many of them didn't even have a lawyer. They went and talked to investigators and did a lie detector test equivalent with no lawyers. Okay, so but anyway, would you think it would be weird if these kids went out and got a civil rights attorney?
Why would they have a civil rights attorney? They're not being accused of anything.
They are being accused. They are being accused.
Who's accused them?
They are accused.
Who has accused
Al
them?
Sharpton, Benjamin Crump.
Show me where Al Sharpton has accused them of something.
All right, they said this is what they said.
Suspicious.
This is what they said. No. They said they put these boys' pictures out on the internet and said he went out, and they framed it as he went out just with them. And something happened, and we know something happened, and why they hiding phones and doing all this? He's accusing them before any evidence is presented.
That's not an accusation. That is.
The thing, even if Ben Crump was accusing them, which he hasn't, even if he and Al Sharpton were accusing them, that's not the police. You don't go get a lawyer because the public is accusing you of something. You go get a lawyer because you did a crime, and you know the police may accuse you of it. Okay, not because regular citizens were saying something. He sounds really obtuse.
It is an accusation.
But it's a statement of suspicion. That's not an accusation.
Charles, hold on. Charles, let me chime in here. A statement of suspicion, some people would say, is an accusation. I understand from the legal, literal sense what you're saying. But talking amongst ourselves right now, when you say a statement of suspicion is not an accusation, that's not how people interpret a statement of suspicion. When you make a statement of suspicion, you're making an accusation. I mean, can we at least concede that? Charles,
what I will say in response to that, Stephen A, is to whatever extent there may have been statements of suspicion that were interpreted in that manner given early on. I think the record has been clear leading up to and during Nolan Wells' funeral that A, we don't know what happened. B, we won't rule anything out. And C, with respect to ruling anything out or not ruling anything out, we are not saying that this absolutely happened, but we are not saying that we are resting until we get answers.
Can I show you where this becomes biased?
Officer Taylor, let me come at you with this. What's wrong? There's a kid now. Okay, granted, you did your homework. You went out there and you actually talked to several of his friends. Props to you for that. But the bottom line is, this kid Nolan Wells is dead, and he was the only one that was dead. What's wrong with, again, in the state of Mississippi, not just with white boys, there were some dudes there as well, but he had other people there. He was the one that did not come home alive. Again, without an official accusation, what's wrong with having your suspicions raised and saying, listen, we need some damn answers. Something ain't right. He was a healthy young 18-year-old, and he didn't come home alive. How'd that happen? What's wrong with that?
Now, if they had context and all the information, and then they led with that, I would have no problem with it. But let me tell you this right now, Stephen A. Smith and Charles, I'm telling you right now, if a white boy was on an island with his black friends, all black, and some white folks put on a camera, that something must be suspicious because the one white boy is with all these black dudes, and something may have happened. We know that people covering it up and everything because these kids black. Man, we'd be pissed off on that. Ain't no way in the world I'd accept somebody saying, you gonna blame these black boys for doing something to this kid just because they black? That's insane. And that's what happened in this situation.
If a white boy had been on that boat with 3 black boys, we would have seen a very different.
Where's your evidence? Give me a case.
History.
No history. You say history can tell us everything.
We would have seen please let me finish my statement. We would have seen a very different.
Give me an example
of the Central Park, the exonerated 5.
Well, first of all, 5 of them didn't go to prison. It was Central Park 5. Only 4 of them. Only 4 of them went to prison.
It was actually 6 of them, and 5 of them went to prison. And I'm not.
And let me tell you how they went to prison.
I'm not going to quibble with you.
You won't give context.
One at a time, guys. One at a time. One at a time.
You asked for an example. I'm not going to quibble with you and say, well, they're called the exonerated 5 and only 4 went to. I'm not going to do that. The exonerated 5. You wanted an example. I gave you an example.
That's not an equivalent example.
And there are other examples throughout history, starting with Emmett Till and going throughout the.
Let me tell you what Brandon Tatum does that really gets under my skin. He will say that you can't name an example of something. You can't give me one story of it. And then when you give him one, he'll say, well, that's just one instance. He did the same thing when he was on News Nation speaking with Teslin Figueroa. He's doing the same thing again. He wants an example. And then when you give it to him, because he doesn't expect you to be able to, but when you do, now he's looking stupid. So his only recourse is to sit there and act as though, oh, that doesn't really prove anything. That's just one example.
Are you comparing this to Emmett Till?
You asked me.
No. Are you saying that this is equivalent to Emmett Till?
You asked me for an example.
So you're saying that it's equivalent?
Where if reversed?
Okay. I'm gonna let you finish.
I'm telling you. I'm giving you examples. What I'm telling you is that if the situation were reversed, we would have seen a very different investigation from law enforcement from the actual outset. Let me introduce. We as a people, when it comes as a former prosecutor, because here's the thing: you're a former police officer, and that's fine. But when it comes to after arrests are made and how prosecutions are going, that's my space. That's my lane. So I'm going to speak from my lane. And what I can tell you is, we do not typically enjoy the benefit of the doubt when it comes to probable cause.
That's not true.
I'm telling you as a former prosecutor, I'm not going to tell you what it's like to be
arrest people and I deal with prosecutors.
I'm not going
to have to do it. I have to interview with the prosecutors every time there's an arrest.
Tatum just thinks he knows everything. He will not shut the hell up and let the man speak.
You have to go to trial.
I'm not.
Well, he's not saying that you. He's not saying that you don't know. Hold on. He's not saying that you don't know, Officer Tatum. What he's saying is, from his perspective as a prosecutor, this is what he's bringing up. Now, I granted, I don't blame Officer Tatum. I don't blame Officer Tatum for bringing up when acting incredulous when he says you'd say Emmett Till. That's 1955. Al Sharpton brought up Medgar Evers at the funeral. That's 1963. So if Officer Tatum's going to look at it and say that's what you're bringing up, I get where he's coming from in terms of the distance between then and now. But I also get where you're coming from, Charles Coleman Jr., when you highlight, listen, from an historical perspective, we're talking about we've seen things like this before. And those are just names that we know. There's a plethora of names that we may not have known that have transpired throughout history that have suffered some of these maladies, and we get that part too. Go ahead, Officer Tatum, floor is yours.
But what I'm saying is that you cannot project that. It's unfair to project that. You can have it in your subconscious that there has been things that have been done wrong, but you got to treat these things fairly. You cannot go out and project that somehow the sheriff is a racist and he's not going to do right by these boys. That's not right. Let the investigation ensue. And then if you see impropriety in the investigation, then you can project that. But listen, they interviewed you just said they interviewed 60 people. They interviewed all these boys the day of. Like, what did they do wrong? They did an autopsy.
Officer Tatum, respectfully, what about those who would say the same or would ask the same question about you? Are you being fair? Because just like you have people out there that are elevating their level of suspicion and jumping to some sort of conclusion attached to guilt as it pertains to the death of Nolan Wells, you're coming across as somebody who's assuming these individuals that were in attendance with him were innocent because of your conversations with them, as opposed to not getting the full context the way Charles Coleman Jr. just highlighted.
No, yeah, I accept people saying that, but let me tell you that I saw proof. I'm not just taking somebody's account for it. And I'm not saying that nobody didn't kill Nolan. I'm telling you the people that they put out on the internet and said these white boys were the only ones with him, and they're getting death threats. While I was out there, somebody sent the suspicious package to one of the boys' houses. They showing up at these boys' houses saying that they killed them. Go look on the internet.
If someone sent a suspicious package to their house, that means that they knew their address. So that is likely someone that they knew. At the end of the day, They knew Tatum was coming to do that interview, so they could have had all this staged just to make it look good. And that's exactly what I think they did. And I think that Tatum is in on every bit of it, because that's how much of a raccoon he is. Okay, that's how much of a raccoon he is. He wants to sit here and accuse other Black people of being race hustlers when that's exactly the epitome of what he is. Okay, that's what he is. He's saying everything pertaining to basically trying to exonerate these people just because they're white. Okay, because he wants to appease white people, because that's how he makes his grifting. That's where he gets his money from, and he knows it. That's who butters his bread or his biscuits, and he knows it. Okay, so yes, he's going to sit here and fight and argue tooth and nail, trying to debunk things, saying things at the same time that are nonsensical, saying that he has proof that they didn't do anything. How the hell does he have proof but the sheriff doesn't? How does he have proof that they didn't do anything, that none of them did a single thing? Where is the proof? Why can't he show us the proof and receipts if he has it? Because he doesn't. He's such a liar. Stupid self. He better hope that something like this never happens to his son, okay? And then he has to really get his ninja wake-up call. That's what he should pray for.
And look at in these videos, they got the boy pictures up there saying they had something to do with his death. They're claiming they deleting text messages. All of this stuff is incredibly ridiculous. When I went out and I said, show me the proof then. Not just what you say, show me the proof. And these kids are showing proof. Their lawyers are showing proof that they had nothing to do with this. They have a Life 360 just like Nolan did. Their Life 360 showed that they were not on the island, or at least, you know, the young man that I interviewed, he wasn't even on the island. I saw his Life 360. So, I mean, these kids.
Because they weren't on the island at what time? That doesn't mean any damn thing. Is he that stupid? Is he that desperate to paint a narrative and to try to exonerate them? What? How is that proof of anything? Their Life 360? How is that proof? He sounds ridiculous. He really sounds like a fool.
They shouldn't have done these boys like this. They should let the investigation go and then make their accusations.
So you're highlighting specifically. You're not even saying, like you just said, you're not even saying that Nolan Wells, that some vile act, that he wasn't murdered. You're saying that these boys, those are the ones that are being unfairly scrutinized and villainized by this whole ordeal. That's what you're saying, Officer Tatum. Is that accurate?
Yes, Stephen A. There were Black kids there who now getting threats online too for coming out and saying something. But nobody's saying, what did these Black kids have anything to do with it? The young girl he was kicking it with, they don't have her name out there. Well, her name is Katie, but I'm not gonna say her full name. I don't want her to get doxxed. They not nobody talking about her. She said she was the last one. I mean, she at least mentioned that she was with him. The boy showed me text messages from her that she's saying that she was with him. Like, why ain't nobody coming at her?
I've seen, and see, this is where it gets dangerous, right? The importance in this moment is to focus on the integrity of the overall process. And when I say the overall process, I'm referring to the investigation, because I knew that the girl's name was Katie. I don't know her last name, and I knew it because there were people who I was seeing in the comment sections that I had on videos that I had done updating people about the case, who were asking the same questions that you have. People,
but Benjamin Crump isn't.
Please. So here's the thing, which is why when you're trying to, and at the end of the day, listen, you don't know what Benjamin Crump is doing as far as investigating a case. The same way that you've talked about, you know, with an investigation, there are certain things that you don't reveal. You don't know what that team of lawyers are doing with respect to trying to ascertain the facts.
I reached out to them.
When it comes to, did they answer you or did they not answer you?
Well, they answered us on the last one and refused to respond to us. I mean, they refused to engage with us.
They don't owe you that.
Well, which is fine. Well, don't act like you're trying to get to the bottom of something.
So again,
don't act like you're trying to get to the bottom of something.
Don't do the thing to them that you are accusing other people of doing.
He said he's trying to get.
Hold on. Now I want you to listen to what Tatum says right here. He said, "Don't try to act like you're trying to get to the bottom of something and then not answer him." How the hell is answering Tatum responding to his email? Okay, because he sent Ben Crump like 3 or 4 emails. Okay, so and Ben Crump didn't reach out to him or whatever. So how is that getting to the bottom of it? What does Tatum know that's going to help Ben Crump get to the bottom of it? If I were Ben Crump, hearing all the disparaging things that he said about him, I wouldn't answer him either. I wouldn't pay him dust. Who the hell does he think he is that he feels that someone has to answer to him? Okay, who does he think he is? Like, this man is ridiculous.
Get to the bottom of it.
Don't make assumptions that
I'm not
for
assuming.
them. No, you are. You're like, well, they're not doing this, and they're trying to make
They're
this
not
about
reaching
this.
out to the boys.
They have not spoken to you.
They haven't spoken to the
Hold on,
boys either.
Charles. In fairness, at least answer this question. If indeed it's to be found out that there's been no attempt by whether it's Sharpton or Benjamin Crump or anybody else to reach out to the actual boys who were supposed to be in attendance with Nolan Wells, as Officer Tatum just highlighted, do you feel that that's the right path that they should be taking if they're raising suspicions, calling for a more thorough and open investigation, etc., and they haven't made personal attempts to reach out to these young men themselves? Do you think that that would be the right thing to do?
I can't think
To ask Officer Tatum's question.
Sure, I can't imagine that legal team would look to bring a lawsuit without having attempted to at least try to get some investigative answers from these boys. Now, when in this process they do it is a different question, because at the end of the day, the more information you have, the more informed questions you can ask. And the chances are you're not going to get multiple bites at that apple. So from a strategic place, what I can tell you is that, yes, I would fully expect that at some point they would endeavor to reach out to these boys, but it may not be this point because they may be waiting for additional information so that they can actually ask better questions. They're not going to get multiple chances to do it. So when you do it, you want to make sure that you're doing it the best way you can. And the only way to do that is to have the information that you need in order to ask the best questions.
I'm sorry, but if I were Ben Crump, I wouldn't want to reach out to them. If I were the parents, I wouldn't want to reach out to them because I wouldn't believe anything that they say. Okay, they've already acted like they are just full of BS. At the end of the day, I would not want to talk to them at all. Okay, Julia, thank you, beloved, for your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings.
They drug these boys through the mother freaking mud. They put their faces online. Benjamin Crump shared this video or this picture of them in a swimming pool.
There he goes lying again. Benjamin Crump reposted it. He didn't share it. Someone else had already shared it. Okay, or someone posted it and he just reposted it. Okay, so it was already on the internet. And then he said that they put their faces online. Their faces were already all over the internet by their own hand. Because even when they deleted that picture from June the 27th or July the 4th, whichever one, because I don't believe anything they say, when they deleted it, they made a mistake and didn't delete it. I believe it was Evan who posted it. He didn't delete it off of Threads. So that's why we still saw it. Okay, so the pictures were already out there.
That happened. That event was a week before July 4th. He didn't do no due diligence to check with anybody before he started putting this stuff out there. Then what he do is he go, I had people saying that the argument was Nolan Wells asking for his phone back. He didn't talk to Tristan, who I interviewed. Tristan said on NBC, that was me, or ABC, that was me. That was not Nolan. But Benjamin Crump still to this day haven't came out and said, we found out that it was another young man. He pushed this stuff on these boys and they getting death threats. That stuff is not right. Benjamin should be more responsible. But the reason
I'm not here to talk about Nolan Wells' lawyer. I'm here to talk about why Nolan Wells is dead.
But let's get to that. Let's get to the phones.
Go ahead.
The phones getting deleted. Because Al Sharpton came out there and said, the mama had to go and search the phone down with GPS and Life 360. No, she didn't. The boys showed text messages, or the parents showed text messages of them communicating with his mom. She refused. And then they go and say they deleted. The boys say, the boys told me it could be not true or not. I don't know. They got to figure it out. They go, We didn't touch his phone. His phone went from the boat to the car with everybody else's phone. And when they came to get the phone, we got the phone out of the car and gave it to.
That's a lie, because why would Tashima say that it took about 15 to 20 minutes for them to bring the phone? Doesn't sound like they went and just got it from the car and just brought it right on out. He's a damn idiot. He seems to think that everything those boys have told him is gold. It's the gospel. He seems to act as though they couldn't tell a lie. That's how stupid he is. Okay, Julie says, how did Tatum see text from Katie in Warren's phone when Warren told Christine Katie was missing when Nolan was missing? Exactly. I'm so glad you brought that up, beloved. He did say that. Oh my goodness, I literally forgot. Do you all remember that now, that he said that Katie was missing also? Because I pointed that out the other day. And I said, how would he know Katie's missing? I thought they met her that same day, or did he know her and Nolan did? How would he know she was missing? Okay, did he try to call her or something? Did he have her information? Thank you, beloved, for that. Okay, and your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings.
Another young man's mom who came to get the other young man's phone. They said, we don't know Nolan's password. How will we get in his phone and delete anything? Now, why is them not coming on TV and saying there was no password or they had to get through his phone?
Let me ask you this question. Based on your investigation, I'm asking you this. I'm thinking that any parent that loses their child wants to get to the bottom of it. They don't care if the villain is white, black, or whatever. Their child is dead. They want the culprit. So when you see Al Sharpton eulogizing and announcing that there's a $100,000 reward, when you see that Tyler Perry agreed to pay for the funeral and put up half of the reward, when you see guys like Spike Lee and Terrell Owens in attendance, and Terrell Owens, I think, dedicated $25,000, if I remember correctly, according to the reports that I've read, and you see Benjamin Crump in attendance, and you're talking about civil rights lawyers being in attendance, like you just pointed out. My question to you, Officer Tatum, and Charles, you can follow up based on the answer that he provides. My question to you is, why do you think the parents decided to go that route, Officer Tatum, based on your investigation in terms of allowing all of those folks to be so intimately involved in this situation? What are your thoughts about that? What comes to your mind, particularly based on your investigation, talking to the actual parties supposedly involved?
Stop and savor the strawberries. That's Daz.
Has anyone actually made it to level 4 before?
There's two thoughts that come to my mind. One is that Al Sharpton and Benjamin Crump are manipulating this family's trauma in order for them to make a crap ton of money. That's one. The second one is the parents trying to cash in on this, because, and it's the reason why I say this. Why did Nolan Wells' mama say, I don't know these kids? These boys showed me pictures and video and text of them staying over his house, or at least the young boy Tristan, staying over his house multiple times. She went to school with one of the other boys' mama, graduated high school with her. They showed me the yearbook. Why is she saying this? Why Al Sharpton don't know this boy?
Okay, so now he's trying to act like Nolan's mother is lying. First of all, she didn't say she didn't know the judge, because it's Judge Ashley, Warren's stepmother, who said that she went to school with Christine. Christine never denied that. So what the hell's he talking about? Okay, and if she said she doesn't know Trayson, I believe her. Trayson hasn't been over their house plenty of times. I don't believe that, because she said she didn't know him. And here's the thing. How in the hell does he know that the pictures Trayson showed him were actually Nolan's house? Because Officer Tatum, you never been to Nolan's house. So how would he know that? How would he be so sure and so certain that he has accurate information? Do you all see how ignorant this man is and how he's so desperate? He's the race hustler. Okay, he's the race hustler. Period.
Why is he eulogizing him at his funeral? Ain't never met Nolan a day in his life. You know, why are they saying we're going to give $100,000 to somebody who give us information to lead to an arrest? What if Nolan drowned? They don't care about him drowning.
If he drowned, then nobody gets the $100,000, $125,000. What is he talking about? So he's mad because they're trying to get to the truth. I want you all to pay attention. This is the only reason he is upset. This raccoon is sitting here mad because they're trying to get to the truth. Now he's criticizing them for offering a reward. How many people in the history of searching for missing family members or murdered family members and trying to find out who did it, how many people in the history of this world have offered rewards? Plenty. So why is it a problem because Ben Crump offered a reward? Why is that a problem? Okay. And then he said, what if he drowned? Okay, well, if he drowned, then he drowned. And then nobody gets the reward. What's the problem? Such an idiot. This man is sickening. I don't see how anyone with sense listens to him on a regular basis. I just
No,
don't.
and then also, why we don't do this for any other young men who have lost their lives at the hands of other people other than white people?
Why
we coming together?
Charles, I'm going to give you the floor. Charles, I'm going to give you the floor in a second. But Officer Tatum, it's one thing I want to make sure that I give you an opportunity to clarify, because it's one thing to feel what you feel about Benjamin Crump, Reverend Al Sharpton, etc. It's another thing entirely to lump the parents who just lost their child. But
I know it's sensitive.
Talking about they're trying to profit.
I know
off
it's
this.
sensitive.
You sure you want to say that? Is what I'm saying. You sure you want to say that?
Let me be.
Yeah, he wants to say it because he's an SOB. Okay, he's an SOB and a whole raccoon. Yes, he wants to say it because he hates black people. He literally hates black people. I want you all to know that. Okay, he hates black people, and it's disgusting. Okay, it's disgusting. I wish the worst for him. And whatever the Nolan's family is going through right now, I hope he gets to experience that someday so he can see how it feels while he's sitting here trying to demonize these parents and accuse them of grifting. Is he serious? He's trying to accuse them of grifting. Yeah, I absolutely hope he goes through something similar one of these days. I really do.
Clear about this. You asked me what my thoughts were. I didn't say that that was facts. I just said these are my thoughts based on a few factors, right?
Okay.
There ain't no reason for Al Sharpton to be doing that boy's eulogy when Al never knew him.
That's not even your call or your business to make.
What I'm saying is that if I die, my daddy,
who cares what your daddy does when you die? Okay, and hopefully it'll be sooner rather than later. But here's the thing. My thing is this. Plenty of people get eulogized and the person performing the eulogy doesn't know them. Okay, sometimes it's a pastor at the church of a family member because maybe the person didn't go to church themselves in life. So that happens all of the time. Why is he sitting here trying to act like this is something so unusual, something so strange? Okay, make it all make sense. Besides that, it's none of his business anyway. Whoever the parents chose to do their son's eulogy is who they chose. Why is he worried about it and concerned? Okay, why is he sitting here complaining about it?
That's you.
Charles, let him speak.
If I get killed,
that family had a choice.
Why?
Who it is that? Why is that? They don't have to answer to you. That's not.
They
even
don't. But I have an opinion.
That's that family.
Okay.
I don't even understand why who that family chose to eulogize their fallen son.
What is he?
And then he can't even shut the hell up to let the other man speak without him interjecting. But notice when he talks, people actually sit there and let him talk. Okay, C-Stan, thank you for your contribution, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. He is a whole classic raccoon, just like you said, beloved.
Of your business to have any commentary about.
Well, you can't tell me that because it don't seem normal. It don't seem normal to me.
Anyone they wanted to.
It don't seem normal. It don't seem normal to me for a man that don't even preach sermons to do a eulogy for a boy that he didn't know.
Okay, we're going off the rails, guys. Time. We're going off the rails. We're going off the rails because Charles, I know you got to get ready to go. We're running out of time, so I'm just going to give this last question to both of y'all. Officer Tatum, I'm going to give you the word, and then Charles Coleman, I'm going to give you the last word. What are your expectations of what is going to come of this when all is said and done, based on the evidence that we know? Charles, Officer Tatum, I'll go with you first. Charles, I'll give you the last word.
And I'll try to make this succinct. I think we're going to find that the law enforcement agency did a fair investigation, that they did things right all the way through the process, and that none of this will lead to any of what Al Sharpton them said it was and alluded that it was, and they will get to the bottom of what happened to Nolan, and it will be clean, it will be professional, and it will be the same result without the interference with activists and people out here hoodwinking. I think that they're going to find out what happened to Nolan, and it's not going to be Al Sharpton. It's not going to be Benjamin Crump. It's going to be the law enforcement agencies that go out and do this stuff every single day, that does an investigation, that's going to be forensically looked through the cell phone, that's going to interview 60 people and find out what happened to Nolan. And they're going to be able to say, was it somebody that did something nefarious to Nolan? They're going to be prosecuted. If Nolan drowned, they're going to let the family know he drowned. That's going to be the totality of this investigation, which didn't have nothing to do with this race stuff and had nothing to do with these activists coming out and making money on the death of another black boy.
Charles, I'll give you the last word because I know you got to go.
What the fuck? What are you doing? Don't push me. Stop.
Thank you, Stephen A. I don't necessarily know what will come of the case. I am and continue to be invested in the integrity of the process. Number one, so that it sets a precedent of getting to the facts and having objective information disseminated to the public in a way that's honest, truthful, and transparent. What I will say is that it's disappointing to sit and listen to Brandon talk about the same type of aspersions being cast on Benjamin Crump, on Al Sharpton, in the same way that they are advocating for answers for Nolan Wells, that he has railed against the same type of characterizations going in reverse. A split mirror image of the type of vitriol that you are decrying against the survivors in this instance being spewed at Benjamin Crump and Al Sharpton. And I don't necessarily think that gets us anywhere, and it's not productive when you're talking about getting to the bottom of this and understanding what actually happened to Nolan Wells. So for me, I hope that the dialogue can be more tempered, where we're not trying to characterize people in either direction, but we're trying to insist on getting to the bottom of things and looking for the facts.
Spirited discussion, that's what it's all about. Two opposite points of view, but I appreciate both of y'all time. I know y'all got a lot more to say, but I know, Charles, at least in your case, you got to get on out of here. Officer Tatum, I could tell you chomping at the bit. I got a lot more to say. You know you're always welcome back on the show. I really appreciate both of y'all taking time out of your busy schedule. I hope this was productive. I think it was a productive conversation, regardless of the disagreements and where we are right now. Still searching for the facts to really, really get to the bottom of what happened to Nolan Wells. But I thank y'all both so much, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen A. Thanks, Charles.
All right,
take
y'all.
care, Brandon.
Wow.
That man has a whole lot more sense than Tatum. Okay? He has a whole lot more sense than Tatum. That's just a fact. And I'm glad that he pointed that out, because the same thing that he's sitting there raging against and claiming that people are accusing these boys and this, that, and the third, he's doing the exact same thing to Al Sharpton and Ben Crump, and even the parents with his low down, dirty self. Okay, now with that all being said, let's go ahead, beloveds, and let's listen to the full audio when they were calling for help, because it's like 8 minutes long. So let's listen to this full audio of when they were claiming that they needed a tow, and let's find out what happened as to why they didn't need the tow after all.
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our village pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come? We have a membership.
All right, of course. How far is the water coming up, sir? Can you give me a description? Ankles?
What'd you say? Hey.
Yes. How far is the water coming up, sir?
It's coming up. We're just sinking. I don't know. Like we're going down now.
All right. Well, let's get you going. Membership number or phone number listed on the account, sir?
I don't know the phone number. It's either Jerry Atkerson. I think it's Jerry Atkerson. Try that.
All right.
I know we have a membership, like guaranteed. I don't have the tag
Unless
on
you
here.
have a
It got ripped
membership
off.
number or anything, it's okay. I'll get you over to the captain. What's the best phone number to reach you at?
Reach me at
All right. And is everybody on board in good health otherwise?
Yeah, everybody's
How
on
many?
board.
All right. Do you need the United States Coast Guard?
What?
Do you need the United States Coast Guard?
No, we do not need that.
All right. All right.
So let me get this straight. So they're on a boat that's sinking and the water is up to the batteries, according to Warren, and they don't need the Coast Guard? Because I would darn sure say yes. I would need all the help I can get in case we start drowning in here. Okay, and they don't even sound like they're pressed. They don't sound like there's any sense of urgency. They're literally talking like it's just another day at the park. But the boat is sinking. Let me just show you all what the boat looks like. Hold on, keep listening. I'm going to pull up the picture.
Do you have your current GPS coordinates?
Let me go look.
If
Hold on, I want you all to also notice how he sounds like he's almost annoyed that she's asking questions. She asks him about the GPS coordinates, and then he says, let me go to look. Are y'all noticing this?
If not, I can send you a text message.
North, are you ready?
Yes, sir, I'm available.
North 30 degrees, but 46.72.
All right, 4672. All right, and you were breaking up a little bit. Can you just repeat it one more time to make sure I have it correct?
Sorry, look.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, what?
So you're breaking up. If you need assistance, do you have a VHF radio?
No, we do not have the VHF radio.
All right, well, let's try to get you going because you don't have good cell phone reception. Can you verify your coordinates one more time?
Okay, my coordinates are 30 degrees by 14.684 north, and then west by 88 degrees by 46.79.
Right, looks like you're on Horn Island, correct? Are you
Yes,
on
we are
Horn
at Horn
Island?
Island. Yes.
All right, is the boat sinking or you have it aground?
We are sinking, yes.
Is it aground is the question?
No, we're not aground. We are in
Okay.
17 foot of water. We're in 31 foot of water.
All right, have to ask. What do you want to do? Do you want to be towed back?
I want to get this boat unsank and towed back, yes.
All right, where would you like it towed to, sir?
You can tow it to Ocean Springs Harbor, or Fort Bayou Launch.
All right, how many adults and children on board?
No, there's no children.
So is there anybody on board? How many adults, sir? That was the question. Hello, can you hear me?
Try to jump in and pull the plug, Bart, while you're going.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Yep, I just need you to answer these questions so I can get you over to the captain.
Okay.
How many
what's
adults
going
on board?
So, there's 0 adults on board.
There's nobody on board the boat?
No. Nobody
right.
here is over the age of 21.
Sir, that was not the question. Is there a person? Is there a person, a living individual on the boat?
Hello?
Why is he having a problem answering the question as to how many people are on the boat?
Is there a living person, someone breathing on the boat? Is there anybody on the boat?
Yes, there's lots of people breathing on the boat.
All right, how many people, sir?
Like 7.
All right, thank you. Does everyone have life jackets on or available to them?
Yes, we have life jackets available.
All right, verify what boat's sinking.
A Triton, 22-foot offshore, 22-foot Triton offshore sea flight hull.
All right. All right. Please hold. I'm transferring you to the local captain now.
Okay, thank you. This is Captain Seth.
Hi, Captain Seth. This is Vicky from International. How you doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
Good, good. I apologize ahead of time. I really do. You're going to have a fee for service come up under Jerry.
Okay.
It sounds like a bunch of kids on board on Horn Island. Um, he's letting me know that his father's a member, but he can't give me any information. And he's saying the boat is sinking, and he's on Horn Island. It's just unfortunate. He's just a kid. There's a lot going on. So
Right.
he said there's about a lot of people on board. He says he thinks about 7. I'm guessing they're all under 18.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to be rude. He wants you guys to go out there and unpump the boat and then tow it in.
Do you know what kind of boat it is?
He said a Triton 24-footer, but that's all he can give me.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just actually got off the phone with his grandpa, who I'm guessing is the owner of the boat. And
Is it
he
Jerry?
said that Jerry. Yeah, he said,
Okay.
I just hung up with him. He said that they don't need any help right now, but if something changes, he'll call me back. So I'm guessing that they may have figured it out, because that's what he said. So they're in a panic and their boat won't crank.
Yeah,
Or,
they're in a
Hold on. Cool Runnings 123. I accidentally banned you. Okay, so Desmond's gonna unblock you. Let's continue.
panic. He's saying the
So-
bilge is not keeping up. I asked for Coast Guard. He said no, but he's just really upset on the back end. And I get it. It's a
Okay.
kid. He just doesn't understand.
okay. Do you still have him on the line?
Yes, I still have him on the line. And again, I couldn't find. He couldn't give me anything regarding his grandfather's, membership. So it's just under Jerry fee for service.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just talked to. If you want to, I'm not. We're so tied up right now. We can't really do any non-member jobs right now.
Is Jerry a member? Did you find out if he was a member or not?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's his boat or what. I'm not sure what's going on with it. But yeah, transfer the kid over. I'll talk to him, and then I'll call his grandpa back as well.
All right. And did you want me to look up Jerry's membership number or anything like that to see if he's up? I know you guys are
You can
swamped.
try this cell phone number.
Yes, sir.
Anything on this phone number.
All right. Yep. Jerry. Yeah, he's an active member. Hold on.
What kind of boat do you have on there? Same boat?
Yeah, he's one. Yeah, he's one of your members. Yep, 22-foot Triton. All right. I'll just disregard this one. I'm gonna send you over an accurate one under this Jerry Ackerson one. Okay, he's one of your members. You'll get it in a couple minutes. Okay.
Okay, perfect. All right. And yeah, just transfer this kid over whenever you get a chance.
All right, transferring now. Thank you again, Captain.
All righty.
Stay safe out there. It's crazy. Have a drink.
Oh, it's wild. All righty.
Okay, so how do you go from needing the boat towed because it's taking on all this water up to the batteries and all of that, but then all of a sudden the tow's canceled? Also, this Cajun Navy guy is hella sketchy. Okay, he's hella sketchy. I'm gonna go to some audio from him, where he basically, remember how he said he posted on social media that he didn't tell Ben Crump that Nolan's body was fully clothed? And then said, don't misrepresent our words. So I was wondering how that mistake even got out there. But he said it on Nancy Grace. I'm going to go to it. But hold on for a second. Because also when they were talking to the dispatcher on the boat, they said, or he said the membership name should be Jerry Atkerson. Well, Jerry Atkerson is the person that I reported to you this morning who owned the boat. He's the grandfather of one of the friends, which I would assume the friend is Wyatt, since Warren said that it was Wyatt's boat. The permission to search document states Jerry gave permission for the investigators to remove any document or items from the boat they deemed important for their probe. So that's what I'm saying. Why would the guy from the Cajun Navy insist that it was Ben Crump who wouldn't allow them to bring the cadaver dogs when they would have to get permission from Jerry Advinker or whatever his name is? Okay, that doesn't make any sense. So now let's go to this audio where he says, where he agrees with Nancy Grace. He doesn't correct her when she mentions in fact, that Nolan's body was fully clothed. He does not correct her, which seems like he's in agreement with it. So why is he acting like Ben Crump lied on him, basically?
Cajun Navy said they never said that Nolan Wells was fully clothed. However, it was actually said with an interview with them and Nancy Grace.
As I recall, Todd Terrell, Nolan was face down, still fully clothed on the beach. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. He was face down, which would have meant that he drowned. Now, when we say he was found fully clothed on the beach, it was in the same vicinity of where he possibly drowned.
Now, in that
Now, if you notice, he repeated it. When you say that he was fully clothed on the beach, he was found in that vicinity. That's what he said. Okay, that's what he said. Please pay attention. Okay, so why is he acting like, yeah, he did say it. He absolutely said it, yes. Okay, so why is he sitting here lying and acting like he didn't say that? See, I'm going to tell you something else. His story, his whole demeanor has changed because in the beginning, he sounded like he had suspicions, and so did the other guy with the beard. Because I remember I told you the guy with the beard specifically said, well, there's people saying, hold on, you got to hear what he says, though, because I find that interesting. But anyway, the other guy said that there were so many people there that he doesn't understand how nobody saw anything. He said something like that doesn't sit right with him. He said some type of phrase along those lines. Okay, like it didn't sit right with him, like he was suspicious is what it was given. That's why all of a sudden when this Brian Trascher comes out saying all this other stuff, it just automatically made me think, like, what is he doing? Has somebody paid him off? Is he saying this for someone else's benefit? But let's continue.
Interview, that was Todd Terrell. He's the owner and founder of the United Cajun Navy. Nancy Grace asked him about Nolan Wells being found fully clothed. He responded back and said yes, and started to talk about the area that Nolan was found in. He said the area was known for its rip currents, and he also said that Nolan was found face down, which indicated a drowning. So if anybody should have clarified that, he should have clarified that during that interview with Nancy Grace when he responded back saying yes, in agreement that he was found fully clothed. Now, Ben Crump did make those statements during the press conference that was held to go with the preliminary autopsy findings. They then went on X and said that they did not make those statements and said that Nolan Wells had on trunks. Ben Crump responded asking about the statements that the owner had previously made, and they said, please don't misrepresent our words. Now, in all honesty here, the only people that misrepresented those words were possibly them because they had the opportunity to clear that up. That Nancy Grace interview has over 1 million views, and a lot of people took what they said as fact. Now, as of right now, we could just take the United Cajun Navy's word saying that Nolan Wells actually had on swim trunks, and maybe this was some kind of mistake. And once I have more information that has been verified, I will let you all know.
Okay, they said that themselves, trying to blame it on Ben Crump. If they misspoke, just come out and say that you misspoke, that that's not what you meant to say. But I find it interesting that all of these stories are changing. All of these stories are changing. Okay, please pay attention, because here's the thing. The news misled us in the first place. They made it sound as though the boys called for a tow and then the boat was towed. They never said anything about the tow being canceled. Also, C-Tow, they never came out and said anything about the tow being canceled either until they started asking for the GPS data information. And then they wanted the GPS data from C-Tow. That's when they came out and said, oh, wait a minute, hold on. We didn't tow that boat. That's when they came out and said they didn't tow the boat. But before that, they didn't say anything about them not towing that boat, because it was absolutely reported that the boat was towed, that they called a tow because it was taken on water. Nobody came out and disputed those claims. Nobody came out and said anything. But then all of a sudden, like I said, when the GPS data comes out and then they want the GPS information from C-Tow, now they come out issuing a statement saying, no, wait a minute. The tow was canceled. We didn't tow the boat after all. So why did you let that fly in the first place? Why did they also all of a sudden change the story when they started asking for GPS data? And why did the dude from the Cajun Navy all of a sudden change his tune? Because they did say that he was fully clothed. Okay, so now they're trying to act like they didn't say that and trying to act like Benjamin Crump just flat out lied. But hold on, I want you all to listen to this. Like stuff, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. Let me put an overlay because I don't know whose show he was on.
Told that there was a boat he thought he was going to get on that was leaving and that he might have been trying to swim to it. The only problem I have with that story is that if the people in the boat knew he was trying to swim to it and they saw him getting carried off with the current, they would have known about it. They would have been able to react to it. Not only that, even if that wasn't the case, if he went into the water at all and became distressed, it was so crowded that day that it seems hard to believe that nobody would have noticed a distressed swimmer in the water.
Now, that's exactly what the other guy from the Cajun Navy said. So they both said exactly the same thing, that they didn't see how it would be plausible for Nolan to have been drowning and then for no one to have seen anything. But so who told him? Where did he get it from? Because let's remember, Warren is the one who called him. Warren is the one who called the Coast Guard and the Cajun Navy and then put them in touch with Nolan's mom. Okay? So with that all being said, who told him that Nolan was possibly swimming to the boat to try to get on? Where did that come from? Let's keep listening.
Water. So again, it's a story I was told. There's a lot of reasons why I question it. What I do know is that he went out there with a number of boys that has been his regular friend group since he was young. They were ready to leave at about 3 o'clock. They told him it's time to go. I was told he had started talking to a young lady and he wanted to hang back and keep talking to her, and that he would believe that he could get another ride. Now, some people have been criticizing, saying, no, you never leave your friend. Well, technically they didn't leave him. He requested to stay behind. And if you know anything about how, these barrier islands are and how they're used recreationally, people go out there on one boat, they might come back on another boat. Like it's almost like a community ferry system, because not everybody has a boat, and you might jump on with another group of friends, whatnot. What we have to find out is, after his friends left, who was Nolan in contact with? Who did he believe he was supposed to get a ride back with? Did that boat give him a ride? Did he get on any boat? How did he end up in the water? Did he wade into the water on his own? Did he get on a boat and fall off? That's what we have to find out. On those particular islands, you're not allowed to camp out or be there after dark. And so the rangers, as it gets to be sunset, they start running around looking for, if there's still any boaters or people out there saying, hey guys, it's time to go home. So I would not think that Nolan was just wandering around the island when it got dark. My instinct tells me that he got off the island, either tried to swim off or got off on a boat and somehow ended up in the water. But because of the Rangers' presence, I don't think it's likely that he just spent the night on the island or was there after dark. Yeah, I was told.
Hold on. Now, did he just say that he thought that Nolan got off the island and then ended up in the water? Did I hear that right? Tanya says, Queen, that's what you mentioned that you saw in your dreams, that they were playing chicken with Nolan, aka swimming towards the boat. Yeah, that is what I dreamt. That is what I dreamt. And that's why I find it interesting that he said that. Okay, but now all of a sudden he's changed his tune and acting like there's nothing to see here, folks. Okay? And I wonder where he got that information from. Who told him that? Because he clearly didn't buy it. It didn't make sense to him. Okay? Straight Comment said he said that. Happy says, I believe Katie too. She also is staying in contact with Nolan's mother. Right. They make more stories than a Hollywood director. This is all crazy at the end of the day. It really is. Okay. I mean, these people are, it's like people's stories are changing. I mean, how many people are involved in this darn cover-up? Okay. What is going on here? This is absolutely crazy. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Hold on just a second. Let me pull up this next clip. I'm going to go to this reading. Someone did a reading on Nolan. Okay, I'm going to go to it. She did this about 8 hours ago. This is just nerve-wracking, okay? Because it's just too many things going on.
This is all for entertainment
Too many moving parts.
purposes only. All information is alleged. I wouldn't take this reading so seriously. None of this is real. And I'm doing this for practice. I was in the middle of recording a reading and the energy hit me like a ton of bricks to the point where I had to pause that reading. If you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at these cards that you see right here. When a person is envious or jealous of you, they will unalive you. And if they do not have the courage to do that, they will destroy and ruin everything in your life. Allegedly, there were multiple people who were jealous of him, but there was one friend in particular who not only hated him, but was obsessed with him. I wouldn't be surprised if this friend allegedly was attracted to him. But this particular friend hated Nolan, allegedly, because Nolan was thriving. Allegedly, Nolan had the life that this friend wanted. Even if Nolan didn't have as much as he did, the friend wanted the personality, the persona, the swag, the charisma, the humor, the charm, the charisma. The friend wanted to be likable just like Nolan, allegedly. I'm also seeing a triangle, and I'm seeing the girl who the friend and Nolan both liked. Somehow, some way, she is in connection to the woman who said that Emmett Till whistled at her, allegedly. Now, I'm not sure if Nolan is related to Emmett Till, but there is a spiritual connection there. I wouldn't even be surprised if Emmett Till reincarnated into the body of Nolan. And the young man who was jealous of Nolan, allegedly he is related to one of the men who unalived Emmett Till. So this is unfinished business that started way back yonder. I want to circle back on that jealousy that the friend had towards Nolan. This particular friend allegedly was throwing his life away. I'm seeing that the boy, his parents set up his life for success to where all he had to do was just walk in it. But instead, he used those connections to destroy his life. I'm seeing a dependency. I'm also seeing prescriptions. Also seeing the word manipulation. So maybe this individual would manipulate his parents' connections to get prescriptions under false names, allegedly, because he had a dependency on them. Allegedly, he probably was addicted. This particular young man made bad choices after bad choice after bad choice. He was reckless with his life. He thought he was invincible. Every time he got into some trouble, his parents would always bail him out, clean it up, all that stuff. Allegedly, Nolan caught this particular friend doing something that he had no business doing, and Nolan was going to report it. And because of that, the friend began to panic, but he still planned how he was going to take Nolan out, allegedly. This friend also had connections and helped to do this. The water was not what took him out of here. That was to cover what they did. Allegedly, right now, they are trying to gather sympathy, play on the emotions of the public so that karma can turn in their favor. The young man who was jealous of Nolan, he was about to face his karma for all the reckless decisions that he did. You can also sprinkle some destiny swapping in there. Allegedly, this man is going to take on Nolan's identity, his blessing, everything that he hated Nolan for. He's going to start walking in it once all of this passes over, once all of this cools off. Allegedly, I wouldn't be surprised if Mississippi and the surrounding areas will begin to experience major storms, hurricanes, extreme inclement weather, because that woke something up in the water. Water holds memory, and because that happened, the water was already disturbed before this even began, but this really woke something up, ancestral wise, spiritual wise. Even though all the people involved will get off scot-free and they will, go on to their separate lives, spiritually, they're not going to be at peace. When they sleep, they're going to have nightmares. Everyone that was involved, different people are going to be standing at the foot of their bed, watching them. They're going to be having sleep paralysis. They may be getting sick a lot. But for all the other civilians, allegedly, y'all better get ready because it's getting ready to be some extreme inclement weather because of this. Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Florida. I'm hearing city to city. Every city and the nearby areas is going to be experiencing some fuck shit because of this. I'm hearing humming in like a minor key. The spirits are coming. They have fully awakened because of this. A lot of y'all are getting ready to see shadow people standing at the end of the road. A lot of y'all going to see shadow people standing outside your house, standing outside your property line. You could be driving in the middle of the night and you'll see someone standing near the welcome to the city sign. Some of y'all might even see the full-on apparition. You're going to be seeing people in old, dirty clothes with no shoes on, looking like they just came from a field. The spirits are coming to y'all address. And it ain't because some of y'all did stuff. They coming and looking for your great-grandparents, your great-great-grandma, because unfortunately, y'all are related to these people who did these egregious things. These spirits are going to wreak havoc in y'all's lives just by you simply being related to them. Allegedly, a lot of people are going to start disowning being white. They're going to be like, oh, I'm not white, I'm German. Oh, I'm not white, I'm Scottish. Oh, I'm not white, I'm Armenian. They're going to take.
They're literally doing that right now. I saw a video yesterday where a white guy was saying that he wasn't white because he said he was Italian. And then, matter of fact, he was talking to Young Thug, and Young Thug said that he wasn't white. Young Thug was like, you Italian? No, you ain't white. So they're already starting to do it. They're literally already starting to do it. Okay, so please pay attention.
Take all that blonde color out their hair. They're going to be brunettes. They're going to be ginger. They're going to be whatever. They're going to try to change their features physically so that they don't have to endure the karma spiritually. Baby, I'm so sorry, but I'm here to tell you, if you are kinfolk to people who enslaved other individuals, they unalived people simply because of their skin complexion. They played a part in systematic injustice, and the list can go on and on. But if you are kinfolk to these people, even if you don't believe those ways, even if that's not you, baby, you're going to go through their karma. Because even though your descendants are long gone, they put a spiritual stain on the lineage. So it don't matter how far down you go down that family tree, the stain is still there. But again, I'm just some crazy tarot lady. This is all for entertainment purposes only.
Okay, and you know, they did lynch Italians here in this country. They got reparations for that too. Unlike what we got for slavery and Jim Crow and all the other heinous things, nothing. Okay, D Major said there was a time when Italians were not considered white, though. So kind of true. Yeah, absolutely, because they were conquered by the Moors when they invaded Sicily, and so that's why many of the Italians have black blood running through their veins, whether they like it or not. That's why they have the dark hair, the broad noses, the olive tone skin. Okay, that's why some of them act like black people, in my opinion. Okay, they have the mafia. Black people have gangs. Okay, please pay attention. And the mafia takes out their own. Okay, and then so do gangs. So it's very similar, in my opinion. Now, with that all being said, I'm going to conclude this broadcast. At the end of the day, we still have a whole lot of questions, and there's just so many things going on. Like, I'm just trying to figure out why all these people are changing their darn stories. Okay, I find that very interesting. Now, the Cajun Navy, I have to look at them with a whole side eye. At least that guy, Brian Trascher, okay, because he seemed like he was so suspicious at first, but then all of a sudden, he's acting like, oh, everything they're saying is true. Like everything they're saying is the gospel. Like everyone seems to be, like I told you all days ago, giving these young men the benefit of the doubt. Okay, it seems like they're getting a whole lot of benefit of the doubt, and they're not even giving that to Nolan's parents. Okay, that's what they're not doing. Hold on, I'm going to go to this video that was posted by the NAACP, Daryl Denard, about an hour ago. Chicago Speaks. Let's see what they're talking about. I haven't listened to this. It just popped up, so I'm going to go to this and see what they're talking about. I mean, there is so many questions. So what do you all think about that reading? To me, that reading sounded pretty plausible, okay? Because I told you all from day one that somebody was jealous, and I think the person jealous was Warren. Look at him. He looks like Curious George with those huge ears. He's not attractive, okay? He's slim and lanky, all right? He just looks like he's insecure. And then also think about how he said that Katie was missing. How did he know Katie was missing in the first place? Why would he even have said that to Nolan's mother? Was he the one that was trying to talk to Katie and she didn't like him? She liked Nolan instead? I'm just curious. Hold on, I'm going to pull up this video. Like, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance.
For Nolan Wells. Justice for Nolan Wells.
Decades ago, Chicago native Emmett Till was brutally murdered in Mississippi. At that time, the NAACP, as well as other civil rights organizations, called for justice in his brutal death. Now, decades later, the NAACP is also demanding justice for another Mississippi teenager, this time Nolan Wells.
We're saying that in
Nolan Wells situation, the narrative should not be it was an accident before there was an investigation. We're not accusing anyone of anything other than the state of Mississippi local officials. We're accusing them of being derelict in their duties.
In an effort to force Mississippi authorities to be more forthcoming, Wells' family attorney Ben Crump released the findings of a second autopsy on the body of 18-year-old Wells. The autopsy concluded that further investigation was needed to accurately determine a cause of death. What was most concerning in the report was the inspection of the throat and neck areas.
Those things are very significant. But he started off talking about this red discoloration in the back of his head is something that was of great concern to him.
What exactly are you calling on Mississippi representatives to do with regard to the investigation?
But the only question that we have is what happened to our son.
But just like you would do a thorough investigation for gun children, we want you to do a thorough investigation for
That's right.
equal justice.
That's right.
Equal justice.
Okay. Hold on, beloveds. I found that video of the other Cajun Navy guy, so we're going to listen to that. But first, I want to hear what this guy's talking about because he says that there was some evidence that interview that Tatum did. He said, thanks, Tatum, for the evidence. So let's see what he's talking about.
You, Officer Tatum, for conducting this interview because this boy now is more suspicious than he's ever been. First red flag was the fact that he said the boat was sinking. Everybody on the boat was screaming at Nolan to get into the boat. Nolan refused to get into the boat. He then said that the only people that heard this interaction between him and Nolan were the people that were on the boat. So out of the thousands of individuals out there in Horn Island, nobody heard this interaction between you and Nolan, but only the people on the boat. Then he turned around and says, no, Katie says she heard it too because Katie texted his friend, which he has evidence of, saying that she heard the interaction between Nolan and them on the boat. The second red flag to me is what happened at Fort Bayou, because he said they had to drive 42-something miles an hour to get the water out of the boat. Once they had all stand at the front of the boat. Once the water got out of the boat in Fort Bayou, they had to all jump out of the boat so the boy could put the plug into the boat so that the boat could stay afloat. What happened at Fort Bayou? Something happened at Fort Bayou. Y'all not being honest with that part right there. Then you call his mother at 11 o'clock. Okay, cool. You call his mother. You got his numbers from his homeboy. You called her two or three times. She picks up. You tell her what's going on. Okay, cool. You then call the Coast Guard, and then that was it. And see, the problem I have with that, because continuously throughout the interview, you talk about that's your friend, that's your brother, that's somebody you're extremely close to, you've known for a long time, you were extremely hurt, you broke down in your other homeboy's arms when you found out about the death, but yet still, after knowing that you haven't heard from him and you were so concerned that you called the Coast Guard, you didn't ask your buddy, hey, yo, can we use your boat? Let's go out here and try to find him. None of that. Y'all all continued partying and you went home. Strange. And you want to know what the even crazier part about the whole situation is? He said the following day, his stepfather was on Facebook like, yo, this your homeboy. Like, what's going on? He over there, oh no. He said he wanted to stay out there on the island with a girl, so we just left him out there on the island. His stepfather didn't have to tell him, let's go look for him. His stepfather had a boat the whole fucking time. If he really cared about him, he would have woke his stepfather up, which he lives with. He would have woke his stepfather up, and they would have got on a fucking boat, and they would have went out there in that water, and they would have went and looked for Nolan. So the reason why he didn't wake up the people that had a boat to go look for him, he got something to do with it. Something happened.
That is an excellent point. Okay? That is a very excellent point. Okay? Please pay attention. Now, if you were that concerned as he's trying to feign that he was, why didn't you wake up your stepfather? Okay, you called the Coast Guard. Why didn't you wake him up and say, hey, can we go look for Nolan? I'm concerned. It's dangerous out there. Because he did say that in the interview that it's dangerous out there. People have died out there. That's what he said. So he seemed to have had no concern. The stepfather seemed more concerned than he was. Make that make sense.
Happened at Fort Bayou. Something happened at Fort Bayou. I don't believe it was a party. I believe something happened at Fort Bayou.
I told you all days ago that something had to happen there, because why did they turn around and double back? They went to Fort Bayou twice. The last time was about 7/19. Okay, according to the GPS data.
Also, the fact they said they went out there the next day and he seen planes, boats, helicopters, marine life. They searched not Horn Island, the entire area, and could not find his body because it was at Fort Bayou. Allegedly, that's what I believe. They need to confiscate all the phones of everyone who was involved. All those phones need to be confiscated, and those group chats and those messages need to be revealed.
They're not going to do that. And I don't believe the police have done that. They're not going to. Because if they had done that already, I'm pretty sure they would have found something substantial. Okay? Because everybody with eyes to see at this point can tell that they absolutely did something to Nolan. And that's just what it is. Okay? They absolutely did something to him. How the hell was he left out there on that island, okay, with Katie or by himself, and nobody saw anything? He didn't go up to anybody. Nobody is saying that Nolan came up to them. Nobody's come forward saying, well, you know, Nolan came up to us asking, you know, if he could catch a ride with us. Nobody has come out and said any of that. So what in the world happened to him? All those people out there and nobody saw any darn thing? That doesn't make any sense at all. They're lying. Okay, they killed him, but I just want to know how and when. Because they absolutely killed him. That's obvious. I don't care what anyone says. They murdered him. That's what they did. That's why this whole cover-up is even taking place. And then Officer Tatum sounds so ignorant saying, why didn't Ben Crump reach out to them? They wouldn't talk to Crump.
AV, an organization made up of volunteers that help with the search for Nolan Wells. Josh, thanks so much for joining us. Tell us about how this search actually played out and walk us through what happened.
Sure. Well, good morning, everybody. And, thank you for having us on. So again, this is a very tragic case, and, we really want to focus on, making sure that the family gets all the closure that they need and gets all the information. So I received a phone call late Saturday night from a concerned friend of Nolan's, basically telling me the information. I mean, it already started going viral and being online. Received that phone call late that night, start gathering some information, drawing it down off of the internet, and then received another message and then a follow-up phone call from the mother first thing that Sunday morning. Again, in the conversation I had with the mother, you could hear the concern, to find her son. We did everything we possibly could. We had already had boats en route to go to the island, boots on the ground, multiple surface vessels, as well as drones searched throughout that day. And then we had fixed wing aircraft on standby. The Coast Guard was already out there with the Sheriff's Department doing their searches with some rotary wing aircraft. Searched that day into the night. Then that Monday morning at daylight, we had additional surface vessels and fixed wing aircraft that were in the air, ultimately, which, he was found that morning.
Tell us, Josh, a little bit about the area and the island. What is it like? Is it normally crowded?
Absolutely crowded. A lot. July 4th weekend, nice, pretty weather. The water was calm. That allowed a lot of vessels to be out there, hundreds of vessels, hundreds and hundreds of people. So it's hard for me to believe, in my honest opinion, that nobody saw anything. Again, we're not law enforcement. We're just a volunteer group, but we are working very closely with law enforcement as well as the family to provide any information that may come to us to help, just to build out the story on what exactly happened to Nolan.
Due to the nature of the island, Josh, how difficult was it to conduct this search?
So the water is, it's dangerous water, in that pass on the northwest side of that island. There's a pass that cuts through and it's a lot of current. Wasn't extremely dangerous at that point. The surface conditions were amenable for us to be out there and to provide a pretty good search pattern, a good grid, as well as allowing us to be on the island with boots on the ground. It was, again, it's an accessible island.
I think we just lost our connection with Josh, but we'll try to reconnect Josh Gill.
Let me just tell you all something I was sitting here thinking about as I was listening to him talk. First of all, he said the same thing that Brian Trascher said, that with all those people, hundreds of people, that there's no way he's going to believe that nobody wouldn't have seen anything. But here's something I thought about. Brian Trascher is really, he's got to be working with the sheriff. He's got to be working with them. He's got to be in on the cover up. Because here's the thing. First of all, he lied on Ben Crump and said that Ben Crump misrepresented their words by saying that Nolan was fully clothed when in fact he wasn't. And they're saying that now he said that he only had on swim trunks. But we just heard one of them on Nancy Grace say that he was fully clothed. So Ben Crump didn't lie about that. But another thing that he lied about is I reported to you this morning that he said that Ben Crump didn't want the canines on the boat. And Ben Crump is not the one that's entitled to make that decision. I'm sorry. That's what I told you all on this broadcast. But Ben Crump is not the one that gets to make that decision. That's what the owner of the boat would do. Okay? So why would he even say that? It's like he's trying to cast doubt on Ben Crump and his team, as if he's trying to make it seem as though they are lying and trying to paint narratives, false narratives. So why would he be doing that? He's an independent or works with an independent organization. So why would he be doing that? What would he stand to gain? I think that someone's promised him something. I think that he's been paid off for something, because something is not right about this man. Okay, now Corey says, Queen, do you think Warren shows sociopathic tendencies from the interview with Stephen Tatum? You mean Brandon Tatum? Yes, I said that already, beloved, and not sociopathic, psychopathic. I don't think that he's sociopathic. I think he's psychopathic, that he was born that way. He didn't just learn this from his environment. He's a rich, privileged kid who's had things handed to him, lived his life, been fed from a silver spoon. So I don't think that he got any of the things that are within him, his personality traits, his coldness, his callousness, his lying, and the easy way that the lies roll off of his tongue. That's psychopathic tendencies to me. That's not a sociopath. This is what he was born with. And he does not show any sympathy and empathy when he speaks of Nolan, nor did he seem to be triggered when he went back to the scene, at Horn Island, where he claims to have last seen Nolan. He didn't show any empathy and sympathy or any sort of remorse, because he's not capable of doing so. Because what I have told you all repetitively since 2020 is that people that are psychopaths, they are born without a conscience. And that is not a mental health issue. That is a personality flaw. I believe that he doesn't have empathy and sympathy because he doesn't have the capacity to feel those things, because he's a psychopath. Okay, he's a psychopath, and I do believe that he has the Iceman inheritance, which I've also told you all about. That's what makes sense to me, because to sit there and talk about your friend who died just a couple of weeks ago, funeral was just days ago, and you're saying this is someone who was like your brother, and you know that you should possibly feel responsible because you're the one that left him there, because he rode with you. Y'all came on the same boat. I don't know what the hell Tatum's talking about when he says they weren't even on the same boat. The people we're blaming weren't even on the same boat. Who exactly are the people he thinks we're blaming? Because everyone seems to be pointing the finger at Warren and Wyatt and whoever the other guy is that was on that boat. Jax, I think maybe his name. But the bottom line is they were all on the same boat. They left the same house that morning to get on the same boat. They spent the night together, at a mutual friend's house. And then also, I thought it was very telling as well when Warren kept saying, my friends, my buddy. He never said once, our friends, our buddies, as if Nolan was not a part of that group, as if Nolan was some outcast, as if those people were his friends alone and not Nolan's. Now, does he feel that way because they maybe helped him cover up the death of Nolan after he killed him? I'm not saying that he did. I just have questions. Okay? I just have questions. Did he do something to Nolan and they all are helping him to cover it up? And that's why he considers them his friends more so than Nolan's. Okay, because make sense. Anyway, I'm going to conclude this broadcast. I'm going to be still digging, doing more research. With that all been said, listen, I love you all to life. I love you all to life. I hope we get to the bottom of it. I hope we get more answers soon. Until then, beloveds, I will see you all in the morning with your morning wake-up call. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Okay? And prayers for Nolan's parents, his family, and his real friends, because it is obvious to me that Warren, Wyatt, and anybody else that Nolan went out there with that morning, they were not his damn friends, because they would never have left him out there, especially since they are the ones who claim that he was so drunk he could barely walk, he was moving slow, and that he was stuttering. If he was that drunk, why would you leave him out there? Why would you leave him out there in such a dangerous environment, knowing that he could possibly stumble out into the water or try to go for a swim or something? Anything could happen. Why would you do that? And these are their own words. Nobody's making this up. That's what Warren said. Okay, so I have several questions. With that all been said, listen, I will talk to you all again soon, beloveds. Okay, hit the like button on your way out. I appreciate it, and I'll talk to you all again soon. Peace.
Mississippi Delta, still crying the same tears. From Emmett to Nolan, how many more years? Copper blood in these waters, Most High see us here. Peace be still, but the truth gonna appear. Emmett Till, young boy whistling in the store. White lies turned to lynch and dragged him from the door. Beaten, shot river, swallowed him whole. Open casket, mama showed the world his soul. Nolan Wells, 18, boat ride on the 4th. Only black in the circle, now they say he drowned for. Horn Island whispers, friends came back without him. Mississippi history, still hunting, still doubting. Same state, same pain, different name. Black boy lost in the Delta rain. When will it change? Lord, when will it change? Ancestors screaming, we never left this stage. 1955, Chicago boy down south for the summer breeze. Money, Mississippi, wrong place for a black team to breathe. Brian Stoll, maybe a whistle, maybe just a smile. Jim Crow cold broken, now they coming in the night. Wild Roy and Malone snatched him from his uncle's floor. Tortured that baby, Fanta round, body in the Tallahatchie roar. Mutilated face, mama said, let the world see. Acquitted by all white jury, not guilty, set him free. Sparked the movement, Montgomery rose from the flames. But the Delta dirt still holding black boys' names. Emmett was 14, just a child in his prime, lynched for existing in a twisted mind. Emmett Till, Nolan Wells, Delta shadows ringing bells. Black life cheap in these haunted lands. Most High coming with justice in his hands. 2026 July 4th, independence gone wrong. Broke the Horn Island with the crew, singing freedom songs. 18 years young, big heart, only copper in the mix. Friends white as the judge that let killers walk in. 55 disappeared that day, body found on the shore 2 nights later. They say drowning, no foul play, but the family know better. Questions swimming deeper than the Gulf water's cold. Why leave your phone? Why the silence from the foe? Mississippi again, history echoing loud. Been Crump calling for truth, independent, autopsy proud. Was it accident or the past rising from the mud? Black boy with white friends, trust issues in our blood.
Why the same soil claim my sons? Ancestor never left, we still the chosen one.
From Till's open casket to Nolan's unanswered call. In time signs, Leviathan rising, watch the fall. No hate, just black love, we hold each other tight. But stop crashing out on each other and demand what's right.
Peace be still,
through the storm we prevail.
Father's child,
we shall not fail. Both in Mississippi, Delta's cruel embrace. One lynched open, one body lost without a trace. Emmett's killers brag after the verdict came. Nolan's story fogged in speculation and shame. 14 or 18, young kings taken too soon. Waters claim the bodies, but the spirit touched the moon. Same fear, same doubt, same racist undercurrent. current flow. But we wiser now, cameras, voices won't let go. Indigenous copper, mountain builder, stand tall. We walk together, ancestors answer the call. No more silent nights, no more cover graves. Justice for Emmett, justice for Nolan. Raise the now, most high, know my heart, make it right somehow. Peace be still, peace be still. From till to west, the story's still real. Let the world see, let the truth be.